chat's being kind of sus right now. Hi, how is everybody? Alright? Thanks for waiting. Just getting set up. Right, so the plan is just to go through some questions. We asked a while ago on YouTube comments. If you guys wanted to ask any questions. We do get a lot of repeated questions on YouTube comments and things like that. So we decided we'd have a thing, we'd get everyone together and we'd answer all of them in one place. So I've got a bit of a team with me here. Obviously I'm Elspeth, I'm the lead coder. I handle most of the in-game script stuff and the design. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves? Yeah.
That's been a bit of a pain.
I think a lot of that might have been missed.
Oh no!
Stream.
Yeah.
Sorry. Might have started with
my bad.
again. My bad.
Okay, so I repeat what I said?
Yeah.
Okay, hello everyone.
Are people hearing us now, just to check?
Okay, it's everything okay? I'm Aprkot, I'm both a lead of Team Forever and the lead artist. I've been working in Forever since the very beginning, so I'm very close. The project is really close to my heart, honestly. Both Forever and Absolute. I'm a Spanish speaker, so if any of you guys have any question in Spanish, please try to keep it in English. But if it's really something you can say otherwise, I'll gladly help and try to communicate it with everyone here. So yeah.
Hello everybody. I'm Zan. I code. I do the art. I try not to destroy the game very often. I think I've been here since like the start, basically, and yeah, that's about it.
My mistake. Hi, I'm Casey. I'm one of the engine programmers and scripters of Team Forever. I mainly do the engine side of things, but I don't really do too much aside from the coding.
Cool. I am Petlamb. I predominantly do the social media stuff, which at the moment mostly involves moderating things like the YouTube and whatnot. Myself and Elspeth ran the Twitter when it existed, which we do have a question on to come to later. Yep. And yeah, I also attempt to corral people sometimes, I guess, and post funny memes in the dev server. That's about the length of my input.
Right.
Today I'll be bringing the questions as well. So.
Cool. Well, do you want to get started on that then? Is there anything that we've had more of than anything else?
Broadly, we've collated questions that we had up to a certain point on the post into broad categories, There is some repetition, so obviously we'll be grouping things together where we can. If there's anything that's brought up in the chat that's new and different to the questions we already have, we may well pick up some chat questions to answer as well. Please don't be offended if we miss anything, though. If we start off with the questions that have formed around characters. So a big question that we've had from quite a few people was whether or not we'd be looking at adding any additional characters, obviously after we added Amy to S1F. So we've got the likes of Dostanovich asking, would we add the likes of, say, Mighty or Ray? Works of Magic asked, is having more characters in the roster in the realm of possibility? Rocky Val also asked about Mighty and Ray specifically. Ultrasonic Anims asked about a wide range of characters, in particular coming across to S2A. And yeah, the Anonymous Gamer, whatnot, there's quite a few people who asked, are we going to look at any additional characters for the games?
Well, a big one I've seen is Amy in Absolute, which I think is a popular idea. I think I wanted to wait, like, to see the feedback from Amy in Forever, and it seems to be overwhelmingly positive. I think that's fair to say.
If anything, I really see Amy in Absolute as the only thing I'm kind of safe saying it's a possibility. Honestly, Amy was such a team effort. It requires so much time to make, even if it were quite a simple character. Mostly because we are really in this. We really struggled, like, in the middle point of making her.
Yeah, we hit a brick wall with the sprites, didn't we?
Yeah, mostly because there was this point where nobody was working on her for like 3-4 months.
Yeah.
It was really draining for everyone on the team working on Amy. So if we do anything character related, it's probably just going to be porting Amy to S2A. Probably not. I'm not really sure, because it's still going to require a lot of extra work for S2A specific sprites.
Yeah, there's like the horizontal twirls and all the vertical twirls and quite a few things like
Special stages.
So I know people want Amy in S2A, but
I think
the best thing I can say is please be patient and civil about it.
Yeah. I think for a while now, Sonic 2 Absolute has been a sort of a side project where we focus on forever, and that's not the case anymore. So S2A has now got like a bit of a chance to be its own thing, build an identity for itself, and I think once it's done that, I'd like to see where Amy fits in that. And I think we can do it. I can see someone in the chat there saying that it's impossible to do. I mean, I'm fairly confident I can port the code over. Not to brag, but I know what I'm doing. So yeah, I think it's an eventually, probably, is an answer to that.
I'm glad someone knows what it's doing, because it's either that or Sam.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Oh, I kind of think, like, out of all the characters to choose, that really only Amy fits with everyone else. Like, cause like Mighty and Ray, I like Mighty and Ray. They're cool characters to me, but they don't really fit as much as Amy would with like Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. I think.
Sort of
a
classic.
Yeah, and the issue is that if we included one, people are going to really expect the other, because the pair has been a pair since the very beginning, since Sega Sonic. So it's probably, even if we decided just to add Mighty or something, people will be really, really aggressive if we of the idea of adding Ray, especially you, Sam. I know you.
Biggest Ray fan. See, in my head, Mighty's still one of the chaotics. you know, because I read the Fleetway comics when I was a kid, and that's really the only exposure I got to Mighty. He's very much in that group for me, and him not being in Mania was a point of contention that I had. But yeah, I think we might get Amy in S2A. I think any other characters, just the sprite works too much for the team at the minute. To really
And I mean,
that being said, I'm the person who is wishful about the idea of, if possible, maybe S2A could see a second character by us. Not in the nearby future, that's for sure. But I'm looking forward to the idea at some point.
Yeah. Cool. What's next?
If you send a message at Mighty and Ray, please with Mania sprites with extra slot, Mighty and Ray sprite by iCloud. That's the kind of comments that I really don't want to see.
You specifically have been warned by Aprkot. No, I'm only playing. But no, it's the thing is obviously as well as I noticed someone saying it's literally impossible. I mean, part of that is obviously porting the code. Part of it is obviously the fact that there's sprites that, as was mentioned before, we needed for S2A. Obviously, the thing is we have some fantastic artists on the team. Leads by Aprkot, and
sorry if I interrupt you.
they exist. So
I'm going to speak in Spanish for a second. Para la gente que habla español, por favor quiero que entiendan que el stream está principalmente dirigido a gente que habla inglesa. Así que podemos entenderlo. Yo estoy al tanto de lo que ponen, pero por favor sean razonables y no se pongan a escribir en español todo el tiempo. Por favor.
Well, yeah, that's what I thought as well.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly what I was thinking.
No, I will say it is actually fantastic that we have a few people on the team who obviously speak languages other than English. Spanish in particular is strongly represented because we know we have a lot of people who play in particular from the sort of South American areas of the world, and we get a lot of support from that region. So it's been handy to have people on the team who we can say, hey, someone has a support query, can we help? And then we can have people on the team help us out in trying to make sure that people get the help that they need. In terms of next question that we'll go on to, specifically talking a little bit more about Amy, obviously there's been a couple of questions around moveset. Works of Magic asked specifically, has bringing over CD Restored's Amy moveset been a thing that was considered when working on 1F version 1.5? If not, would that be a thing that's in the plans for future releases? Likewise, Amy / that Sonic fan asked if she'd be in 2 Absolute, and also if there would be any further changes to her moveset. Obviously, at the moment, as things stand, if anyone doesn't already know, there are 2 base movesets to choose from. It's been our experience that generally people have a fairly strong feeling about which one they prefer, which is kind of why there are the 2 movesets, because people are strongly in one camp or the other.
Even on the team, to be fair.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, any further changes to moveset, including obviously when and if she comes to 2A.
Just in case we are not adding CD Restored moveset.
Yeah, I can't see us adding a third
Clear about that? No.
It was a bit contentious adding 2. I remember when we posted the first preview on the Twitter, and there were a lot of comments about Amy spin dashing, about Amy curling into a ball when she's jumping, which, you know, she's a hedgehog. There's only her and Sonic really should be able to do it anyway. But a lot of people were like, we play Amy in advance. The big Amy fans really made a noise about it, which is why we moved to. But we're not doing a third, definitely not.
To kind of promote myself a little, I have done a mod with Carl Emerald that puts the CD Restored moveset in.
Yeah.
So if people do want that, then you can just get the mod. But I don't think the restored moveset would really fit with Sonic 1. It's not a whole lot of, like, his problem is I don't really think a double jump would work well with Sonic 1?
I will clarify that if we made any other update of Forever in the future, I have already planned a few changes for Advanced ESC. Not so much core changes to how it plays, that's pretty much said and done. But just trying to buff a little bit the moveset, because at this point in time, it's clearly the weakest of the two options. So yeah, I guess for the next Forever update, please look out for Advances to at least try it.
Yeah.
In a more polished and
I'd like
fleshed out
to
version.
get some feedback about the people who prefer the Advanced moveset. Are they happy with it? Or are there things that they would change about it? And things like that. I am going to fire up some golf for the background. Can we have another question, please?
Well, that is quite handy, actually, because there were a couple of questions that asked about adding Amy, as we've already covered, to S2A, but also included, would we consider adding golf to S2A? Those ones coming from Waza and from Red Ristar Dude.
I think golf is definitely just a Sonic 1 thing, you know. It was based on the Java game. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but there was an official Sonic golf game for mobiles back in the day. I can't remember what year it came out. But that used levels from Sonic 1, which is why it ended up here. But again, I want the two projects to have their own identities. So what I don't want to do is just take every feature from Forever and put it straight into Absolute. What do you guys think?
She's right. We are adding volleyball instead. Don't worry, guys. I know what you people want, what you psychos want. So yeah. Sonic volleyball is going to be real. I swear. I work at Team Forever. I'm Mr. Forever.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're particularly keen that we, since the start of doing S2A, is that we've wanted the two games to feel like they have their own separate identities. What we didn't want to do, and that's part of why we didn't call it like S2F, is because we didn't want to just slap everything we've done for Forever onto S2 and call it a day. It does need to have its own kind of vibe, so that's why there's a lot of stuff that won't necessarily come across. That being said, obviously we do want to reach parity on a lot of the quality of life improvements. There's definitely stuff I think the whole team would agree that we're looking to bring across, because 2A has simply had less releases yet.
Zan, you've got the display and the sound options from 1.5 in the current S2A build, haven't you?
Yeah.
I have something big cooking.
Oh.
I've seen it. Why are you doing?
I don't know.
What is he cooking?
What is he cooking? Who could know?
Oh, really? I'm looking forward to the next episode. Like, it's going to take a while. Probably,
yeah, the big menu update.
Yeah. I think that's one of the difficult things when we're planning a particularly large update. It means obviously it takes longer to come out. But in the meantime, nice. Sorry, I think the stream's slightly behind from where I'm speaking, so I apologise. But there was a part like that.
You've just seen that put through the tube, have you?
Yeah, that was wonderful. Well done. But yeah, don't be disheartened that we recognise that S2A is at a lower level of completeness than S1F is at. So there's a lot that is going to come across for sure. But I wouldn't necessarily expect a one-to-one of all of the additional features we've put in to just get sort of mindlessly slapped across. That's not what we're looking to do.
To give a good example for, I think something like the Emerald Gauntlet wanna make sense in S2A simply because it probably will end up in something less interesting.
I would like to do something with the Sonic 2 special stages.
Yeah, but not really a gauntlet like in S1F, because it's not really something that fits there. And
I think the
it's
Sonic
like
2
my...
Sorry, go ahead.
Go on. Go on. Don't worry.
I think the Sonic 2 special stages could lend themselves to procedural generation more than the Sonic 1.
We were thinking the same!
Yeah? Ooh. That's a confirmed idea then. Just an idea, not a promise. But I can look into that. Because, like...
June 27, that's the release date.
Shut up, man! You can't do this to me. So what's
The last thing in that sort of falls somewhat under characters, yes, there was the golf questions in there too, but let's not worry about that. Was a question asking from Waza, do you plan to add an option to change the colour palette of the characters? I'd expect that's probably going to be the answer if that falls into mod territory, but, you know, go ahead, guys.
Honestly, I will say, if we do something like that, it's probably going to be a secret. We're not going to tell anyone. That's my answer. Like,
Yeah, just...
no, we don't have anything like that, but if it is in game, you people wouldn't know it.
Might be in already.
Are we just going to now gaslight our players? I'm seeing a lot of chat in the chat about the big topic on everyone's minds, platform related questions. Now we do already have yeah, brace yourself everyone. We do already have quite a few questions from the community post that we listed, asking for people to submit what they had that they'd like to ask. So we'll just start powering through those. Obviously, the most common one is, are we planning for an Android port of Sonic 2 Absolute? Now that comes from a load of people, and if I named everyone, I would be on all day, so I do apologise, but we did see the questions. A lot of people had that question.
Okay, here we go.
Did you hear that, everyone? You've made Aprkot feel like dying. No, carry on.
Right, so probably eventually. So the touch controls in Sonic 1 Forever aren't finished yet. It's still in beta, and they're not currently being worked on because S2A is the focus. I think we do eventually want to do it. What we'll probably want to do first is perfect the touch controls in Forever, and then take those lessons straight across and get Absolute done rather quickly. We've got an APK working now, you know, and making an APK for Sonic 2 Absolutes would be fairly easy. But I mean, Zam, porting the touch controls over would be your job. How do you feel about it?
Oh my god, I don't want to think about touch controls right now. That took a really long time.
And a lot of help.
And a lot of help.
Yeah.
Like, I started to have concerns for your well-being towards the end of sorting out the touch controls.
I was like going into it like, oh, it's gonna be a fun thing to do, like, and then I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
If I can give a shout out to Leon X264, I think that's the right number, who sort of just took it upon himself. He's not a member of the team, but he took it upon himself to make a base touch function for the entirety of the menus, and we've sort of been tweaking from there, and he just did that out of the kindness of his own heart, off his own back, so you know, thank you very much for that. But I mean, Cosmic, how easy would an S2A Android pack be? Or could you do that? If I told you to do that right now, how long would it take?
I mean, my personal opinion, I never actually worked with proper touch controls and the like, so it would probably take me a good long while unless Sam helps me out.
Not with touch controls, just I think the biggest thing on the engine side would be a different APK using a different folder, so they can both be installed on the same device.
No, not at all. In fact, I'm sure just about done with it.
Right?
Huh. Yeah, I'm pretty much done with it.
Yeah. So, like I say, the big barrier definitely is touch controls, and you know the menu.
Do people know how much time the icon took to be made?
That icon's so good though. That's such an amazing icon. I love
It was
that.
worth it. And you'll just slap a big 2 on it and put it on absolute, it'll be fine.
Just for the trivia, the icon that's currently on the APK, it was made originally for the Switch. And it started production, to be said, like 6 months before, and nobody worked on it for like 4 of them.
I've just realised I've been distracted and my golf game is horrific.
Oh no.
I've just been batting the
Ow.
ball through Green Hill, and I'm still in the first hole.
Oh, bestie. It's gonna need to really sky the next one to just.
No,
We're just gonna restart. Yeah, fair enough.
I hate this bag.
Funnily enough, obviously Cosmic mentioned part of the stuff coming across from the Switch ports and whatnot. There's been other talk of obviously other formats and platforms. So as well as obviously asking about Android for S2A, the other things that have been particularly common is, I'll just bundle these ones together. Would we see iOS releases for either/both? Things like Switch ports, and also a question came in from some bad batter about whether or not we would ever release on Linux. So if anyone wants to chime in on any of those platform-based questions.
Cosmic, that's your stomping ground, I think.
Yeah.
So, I guess the rundown is like platform support, right?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Across several different ones, yeah.
I mean, for the moment, we currently have Android, Switch, Windows, and Linux. Given Linux users will have to build that themselves, we do provide pre-built APKs of Android, as well as a pre-built NRO for Forever on the site as betas, as we have it set, right?
Yeah.
So other platforms I've heard mentioned be like 3DS. I've had that question come at me a couple of times, and I'd say like it's in the realm of possibility. I myself have never worked with 3DS homebrew software. I've only worked with Switch, so it would be more in line to get maybe a little bit of help from someone. I've been told some directions on who to go to. So, it's in the realm of possibility that the 3DS might get support for the proper standalone release. As for iOS, that's a bit of a hard, because iOS itself is very difficult to develop homebrew applications for at times.
It's very locked down OS, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. Apple locks down the OS entirely, like how Android is. Because Android easily can sideload apps, but iOS can, but it's like temporary. And even then, building for iOS is a bit of a problem. Like Macintosh, for example, the original Retro Engine v4 repository can support Mac. At least it mostly can. There are Macintosh, like, fixed up forks that exist, like Safarad's, I believe. Basically, that one had some adjustments here and there to make it work a little better on Mac. We in theory could get some help to get our port there too, but Macintosh can easily build an application and load it without issue. There's no need of like re-signing an application or anything.
Yeah.
iOS, on the meanwhile, IPAs have to be like constantly re-signed to some degree, or reloaded so that the phone doesn't kick it out because it's like using a developer license.
Yeah.
And as we know, I've had talks with Chuli and Rubber Ducky Cooley about V4's iOS support as well as V3's, and they say they'd rather not touch it with a 10-foot pole, basically,
Yeah.
because of how locked down and hard to deal with it is.
I know Yuka made basically a website you can play 3Air on, and
Yeah.
that's the iOS port. I don't know if we could do something similar. I know I don't have the skill set for it.
I don't either, but there are technically retro engine ports to WebASM, if that's what you're talking about.
I don't know.
Don't think they run as well as the standalone ports, but they exist. I don't know if I'd be able to manage something like that, though, because that's probably a lot of things that would have to come through from, like, the actual programmer of the original stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen people who've handled the WebASM ports and the optimizations they have to go through, but even then, not everything runs smoothly. I think the Sonic 2 one in particular runs worse than intended because of the special stages.
I think it's worth noting at this
Yes.
point that our fork of the Retro Engine decomps is open source. So if you do
Correct.
want to port it somewhere, you can. Just the GitHub page is linked on the website, and you can, obviously, as long as you follow Rubber.QoL's license, you can do whatever you like with it.
And if anyone here who is looking over the stream that does actually have, like, proper knowledge of, like, porting or anything homebrew related to other devices like PS Vita or the like, more than enough, we are willing to, like, have you just let you, like, port the engine fork that we have to various platforms. You can reach out to us or just do it yourself if you felt like it. Up to y'all. Guys, up to you guys. But it'd be greatly appreciated so that people can experience Forever and Absolute on more platforms, since people have varying devices around the world, apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, there's probably someone out there who wants to play Sonic 1 Forever on a fucking SNES Classic.
Someone's going to put it on their N gauge.
Can N-Gage even run?
If I
Oh,
can't play Sonic 1 Forever on a smart fridge, what's the point?
well,
Sonic
yeah,
1 Forever
obviously.
on Java.
One question, by the way, folks, that we've had come in quite a bit during the course of this stream is whether or not we'll be adding any further translation additions, such as, for example, finishing off German and adding Polish is the one I've seen a few times as well. Obviously, a lot of our translations have been dictated by who we have on the team, and also their workloads and whatnot. But yeah, where do we stand with that, folks?
We did get finished files for a German translation recently, from someone who left the team, but it looks like they've started working on Forever again of their own accord. So we should be able to get a German translation in the next update, whenever that may be. Polish, I think the hardest thing with the translation so far has been handling special characters, and at the moment we're kind of just not doing that. So there's no accented characters in the Portuguese and Spanish menus, for example. Polish, as far as I understand, uses a completely different alphabet, uses the Cyrillic alphabet, so we simply wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
I think if the only thing I could think that the different a different type of syllabary or alphabet could work is that if we made like a dummy language, like pretty much like a template that people can mod, and like a custom language that there's only one slot, but people can customize what is on that slot. That's like the only way I could think this working in without being like a ton of work from everyone.
Like, the problem with a template for translations, though, is like if we change something or add something into the text file, then how do you get that? Do you just, it would be kind of a weird system of always having to check to make sure. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, they should. I mean, the thing is, I can't imagine a way of adding any other language that doesn't use the Roman alphabet.
Yeah.
Other way,
Like if we
I come from trying to translate the game from to Japanese, so yeah.
yeah. So
I'm thinking how something could be made to that extent, basically.
yeah.
And the only thing I could imagine is like making a dummy language that even the translation file wouldn't even make sense. Like it would be like a bunch of random characters without that much order, but in game it could look like a proper translation.
Yeah.
That's the only way I could imagine it working properly.
I mean, that even then we've got like a limit of 26 characters really, and not knowing these alphabets well enough, I wouldn't be able to say if that was enough to make it usable. I know Japanese it definitely wouldn't.
I have seen like some translation mods popping up. I think I saw a Polish one at some point on Game Banana.
Yeah, that's really cool. If they've managed to pull it off, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I say, well, because all of the game scripts are moddable with this. Modders can do anything that they want, which is fantastic. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, make translation mods if you can. That's amazing.
Please remember that we, as modders, we encourage other people to mod, and yeah. Have fun.
Do we have another question, Petlamb?
Oh, we have so many, and everyone is going to love this next section. No one is going to despair or feel bad or feel frustrated in any way, shape, or form.
I'm scared.
So, with all that being said,
Mm-hmm.
this is my section of questions under the subheader CD Timeless was an April Fool's joke.
No, guys.
Yeah.
CD Timeless is real. Trust me. I met Mr. Yuji Naka himself. He told me CD Timeless was real.
So yes,
obviously, the questions are all around a similar theme here. So obviously, I know this has been a running joke, but are there any plans in the far future to maybe do it? Are we planning to do anything similar for Sonic 3K or Sonic CD as well? Generally speaking, just as I say, a lot of the same questions of would we consider, in particular, looking at doing the 1F 2A treatment for either 3K or CD, times many questions.
Okay, I'd like to talk about this one a little bit, actually.
Yeah.
The part about 3K, the CD part I'll get to in a minute, but 3K, it depends on which one we're looking at. Because if we're going to be logical about this and say if we are doing it, like if from a logical standpoint, if it was going to happen, we would just not be able to touch Origins. I'd have to admit that.
Yeah.
Like even if it, like, I don't think it's going to be ever possible to modify that game to the extent we do with S1F and S2A anytime soon, or at all. Who knows?
I mean,
if anything,
sorry, you weren't finished.
Like if anything, like CD has a higher chance, if not like 3K, like Fury Air in particular, having like a add-on mod to it would be more possible, but 3K's got like a bit of a snag going on with it. Plus, you already have 3 Air as is, so I don't know if we would ever touch it.
Yeah.
Right?
For me, 3A is what I want to be. It fills that hole of a modern way to play that game on PC so well that I don't know what we could bring to it. Maybe like some of the standards, like arcade mode.
CD.
CD
jank mode.
But I think if we did a Sonic 3, what we'd either be looking at making a mod for 3A, making a fork of 3A, or rebuilding Sonic 3 and Knuckles from scratch in the retro engine.
Oh, that sounds like hell.
It does, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Yes, doesn't
That sounds like hell.
it?
Elspeth will die.
People did try. I know a bunch of people on REMS tried. I don't know how far they got.
There's like 4 Sonic 3 remakes. I don't even know what's going on. Every day there just seems to be a new video of some remake.
I mean, talking directly to the chat here, what would you guys want out of a theoretical Sonic 3 Forever that Air doesn't
Like, what
already
would actually
have?
differ? Yeah, what would be different from what Air's already doing? Because I think it's reasonable to say that 3Air was a source of inspiration in terms of what the overall goal with
How
1F and
Forever
2A
started
are.
was really inspired on Twitter because
Yeah,
it was
absolutely.
our only reference at the moment. And we also didn't have that much of an identity of how we wanted to push the project outside of. Yeah.
I mean, when we started, back when we were Decomp Refresh, the base Decomp didn't even, like, the menu was very bare bones.
Hey,
And
it took
that
us 45 minutes to mention decompression.
That's a good time.
But the menu on the base Decomp was very bare bones, and putting that next to the 3A, it was striking, and that was a big part of what I wanted to do for it. And obviously that's changed over time, and our goals and our ideas have evolved. But 3A already has all of these things, you know. We could. I'm seeing a few people saying art tweaks, you know. But yeah, it's mod territory, you know. We could maybe look at making a mod for 3A that adds the kind of stuff that we like to add, but there's a danger of it being a sort of expansion pack kind of deal where that becomes a must-have mod for
I
everybody.
think, or I don't think our presence is like as necessary in 3R in the 3R environment as it is in the Sonic 1 and 2.
Yeah,
because I mean, simply because 3R is so much easier to customize. It's a lot.
The mod support is a lot better in 3A.
So
and it's just a simple fact of the engine.
I'm not saying we are necessary for the decomps to exist, because it's clearly not, it's not the case. It will never be. We are thankful of the decomps and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But we have made the effort to make the decomps more accessible to people.
Yeah.
Both in presentation and in the process of getting them working. So starting by that, and the fact that at the beginning the decomps have really rough menus and presentation, I think our presence was more helpful and more important than whatever we could do in Sonic 3R.
Yeah.
Which has already established itself for a long time now.
Yeah. As for Timeless,
yeah, I forgot. I was happy for a couple of minutes with the topic of 3R.
a lot of people. I don't know what's spread and what hasn't, because a lot of people are asking if the common question I see, and Petlamb, you'll probably be able to back this up, is CD Timeless real? And
I'm going to clarify something before Elspeth drops the harsh news. We didn't even came out with the name. The name was not our idea. We stole it from a random YouTube comment. We don't even have the screenshot of said YouTube comment, so we didn't have. We can't even credit said person. Yeah, Elspeth dropped the news.
Was it a comment on our video? Was it because we get like people try and they suggest these things that they want us to work on, and they've got names in there already. because they think they've worked out the naming structure that we use. And Timeless might be one of those. I don't know. But we did it as an April Fool's joke last year. I think it was last year. Because we were getting asked a lot about the CD port, and we uploaded a build. I deliberately made the easy setup take a long time doing nothing.
I've never tried the setup. I didn't know that.
It just stops for 10 seconds while it says it's unpacking files. It's not doing anything. It just stops for 10 seconds.
Only 10 seconds. I was expecting a minute.
And then when you load it up, it's just the no way screen from Blue Spheres, and that's it. And it calls the window Sonic CD's nuts. And I thought I'd made it obvious enough. And the replies to the tweet were a lot of people sort of falling for it and admitting they'd fallen for it and having a good laugh. But it seems that part has been dropped. And the idea that we said something about Sonic CD persisted.
Yeah.
Okay, let me answer a question that a person has been really insistent on, and it's really starting to get on my nerves because he has been spamming for a few times, and I give him a few warnings now. Shangyuto-san, ok. Acerca de Hayden Palace, hemos dicho ya varias veces que es en lo próximo que queremos enfocarnos. Así que, por favor, ten paciencia. Tarde o temprano llegarán noticias al respecto. ¿Ok? Ok, por favor, deja de spamear en el chat. Es solamente para tratar de mantener un ambiente un poco más tranquilo con todo el mundo acá. ¿Ok? Ok. Ok, go on.
That's
See,
exactly what I was
I'm a
thinking.
dumbass monolingual, but I definitely worked out at least a bit of that, and I feel pretty proud.
So yeah,
I am going. Sorry, go ahead.
Just to round up, we're not making CD Timeless.
Yeah, that's the direct answer. I am going to show a little bit of blatant favoritism, so I apologize? Hard to say. A good friend of the team, HUD601, had a few questions for us, and I just wanted to drop these in at the moment because I'm very aware that his stream schedule is such that he will be starting stream a little bit later.
We owe him the odd favour, so...
I think we do. He's a genuinely lovely guy, and if, as an aside, actually, if anyone here enjoys watching, particularly Sonic speedruns, not always exclusively, but the vast majority of the time is, along with fantastic vibes and just a really lovely community, I would recommend checking out HUD601 on Twitch.
Worth mentioning, actually, on the 21st, they HUDs and a couple of his friends are previewing the new Gamble Scramble extra that we've added to Sonic 2 Absolute, which is finished now. So if you want to see what that's like, check that out. They've done it a couple of times before with unfinished builds, and we've given them a couple of mods as well to mess around with. But it's always a really fun night. So that's Tuesday night. 6 PM UTC, so the same time of day this stream started. It'll be a laugh. But anyway, what's his questions?
I do actually say, as just mentioned, sadly no stream night, but he will be back on Monday. But like I say, I do want to just have a quick look at his questions. He'd asked if 3Air was brought to the retro engine, what would be the chances of a remastered shuffler?
What does that even mean?
It
What is a
means,
remastered
oh my
shuffler?
god! It means writing. It means doing save states, basically. That would be the biggest hurdle in doing it. Would be working out how to do save states in the engine, which could work. I could just dump the entire memory somewhere, and then pick that back up. But oh my god, I don't want to.
See, the thing is, though, I've heard you be like this about things in the past, and then you end up doing it, and then you're like, oh, and like you'll run into the room and be like, I've made a breakthrough, it's all working, yes, ha! And you get a lot from that. So I'm just saying, I'm not going to say it couldn't happen, let's be fair.
Golf Forever nearly killed me Like, the engine is not designed to handle an object that size.
Golf was too much for the retro engine.
Yeah, there's been a few
but yeah,
things
we
where like
figured it out,
that,
figured it out.
Boss Rush, where we've just like there's been a lot of fighting the engine to make things behave, and people on the team take a very reasonable amount of pride in having achieved what's been achieved, the stuff that was really awkward, and as they should do. But yeah, things like golf were really hard work. Huds did also go on to ask if we could potentially have a timer for golf for speedruns.
That is... What's the word I'm looking for?
I'm hoping it's nothing offensive.
Oh, it is.
Oh, great, okay.
That's anathema. That's the word I'm looking for. Anathema to the idea of what golf is. It's meant to be a calm, relaxing, slow experience. And,
Speedrunners don't know how to have a calm, slow, relaxing experience.
well, they have the rest of the game in which to...
I mean, it's
They have the rest of the game in which to hyper-focus and figure out what they're doing with every single button press. But no,
Yeah.
I guess no, I don't want to do it. It doesn't fit. It's
That is fair. The last of the points that Huds also made was to ask one last request. Would you consider putting your amazing skills, just getting you buttered up there, I think, to add crowd control support to 1F, 2A, or even 3A? For Air, I have Yuka on board to add what is needed.
I don't think. No offense, anybody. I don't think anybody in the team has the amazing skills required to add crowd control support to the game.
let's ask Tanya.
Yeah, we'll put it on her job list and then forget about it.
I mean, if we assign it to Tanya, it will probably, perhaps get done sometime around 2043, maybe. So just mark your calendars, everyone.
I don't doubt Tanya capacities to do anything. She's a pretty capable person. The only issue is that, yeah, she tends to not be around.
For people in the chat who might not know what crowd control is, it's essentially a system you can add to a game to make it respond to users on a Twitch stream. So if you guys might remember Sonic Mania versus chat, where people could type in commands and the game would react. It's similar to that, but it can react to things like point spends and things like that as well. I don't understand how it works. I believe there is an organisation that handles it. Maybe we could reach out, but I don't know if they work with fan games and mods and things like that. We do have a fork of the engine, which would make it easier, so it wouldn't be completely on game script, but it's not something we've ever thought about, I think.
Yeah.
I think crowd control would have to get in touch with us and say, this is what we can do.
I mean, if that ever
This is the
gets
support we can offer.
done, it could be really fun, honestly.
Oh, it's like I don't think the doubt is whether or not it would be fun for sure. I think that could be a lot of fun. I think where we've landed there is we are not confident in our abilities, but I'm not going to say it couldn't happen.
We're just modders. We are just modders. Like, I see people comparing us to Eukaryot a lot, and Eukaryot has done an amazing thing. He's taken a ROM. He's built a pseudo emulator for it. He's made his own scripting language to translate the assembly to run natively. We didn't, like, Taxman made the engine we're using. Taxman himself ported the game, and Rubber.Cooley and Chuli decompiled it to make it native to PCs. We're standing on the shoulders of giants. Sorry?
Stealth helped out with the development of Sonic 1 and 2, and partially with CD.
Did I not say Stealth?
I made a pink hedgehog.
Taxman made the engine, but yeah, Taxman and Stealth
Yeah,
ported the
Stealth
game
helped
to
with
it.
the actual game. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just Taxman's engine.
But yeah, like we're standing on the shoulders of giants, and there's a lot of people have worked really hard to make what we're doing possible. So I might not be as talented as you think, but I'm willing to learn.
Yeah. Broadly, the next grouping of questions is centered around future content, which we've touched on a little bit. But we have a few more, some broad questions, some a little bit more defined. So starting with a broad one, Bluefire asked, what additional features were you planning on implementing in future for S1F and S2A?
Well,
Okay, this is like walking on eggs.
Eggshells.
it's fine. It's fine. I know we've got a few things planned that are secret. I know that they're secrets,
Ooh.
and I'm not going to spoil them. But we've come out and said what's coming in the next Sonic 2 Absolute update. That's Gamble Scramble. Just a little extra mode where you've got 10 minutes in Casino Night Act 2. Get as many rings as you can. The target is to get 1,000. It's simple win or lose.
Or get in ring depth.
Yes. You either get 1,000 rings within 10 minutes or you don't. You can go into negative rings in the machines, and there are a couple of other obstacles and mechanics added as well to sort of spice it up, so it's not just 10 minutes of going into a slot machine over and over again. We've got that. We've got the
And
menu
about-
rework.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest thing at the moment.
Yeah. We're still at the concepting stage for that, aren't we?
We are planning to overview pretty much every single menu in the game.
Yeah.
Not probably going to rework them all, but at least giving them a second look.
I mean, the main menu with the sky chase scene was like, I had an idea and I threw it together, and I liked it. And I recall people on the team liking it as well. But the reception's been somewhat cold to it. I don't think anyone hates it, but compared to the flair of the Forever menus, it's a bit, I think some would say, dull. And
I mean, the thing is, the Forever menus have been reworked a lot ever since they started, so it's only natural that S2A needs a lot of push at the moment.
yeah. So that's we're talking some new menu assets, a bit more of some more context graphics, like the monitor and the Forever menus, something that kind of thing. Obviously, organising the options into different categories and stuff like that. And then there's a secret extra that we're working on, that we're not ready to talk about. I don't think we'll ever be ready to talk about it. It'll be in the game in the next update, and you should be able to find it. But that's for S2A. Sonic 1 Forever, I'd say, is pretty much
The
finished.
main part of Forever is pretty much over, so
Yeah.
we are only planning to add kind of secondary content just to round things up.
There's
Forever is not over, but it's starting to be over.
It's like there's a prologue to be added to Forever. I think there's the sound test that we want to do. Would you describe it as day garden like?
Come again?
The DA garden was like it's like a sound test plus that you get in some Sonic games. I think it's kind of like that. I think.
Yeah, it is like it's pretty much an interactive background with the sound test.
Yeah. There's that. There's another secret extra.
And also we've been toying a little bit with the idea of reworking the special stage maker.
Yes. Oh, I keep forgetting about that. Yeah. Special
We-
stage maker.
Don't worry, I think everyone on the team has forgot about the special stage maker, but
Yeah. So if you guys probably know, there's a special stage maker in the extras menu of Forever. And it puts you in essentially a blank special stage in debug mode, and you can save and load layouts and things like that. We do have some plans on reworking the UI in that to make it a bit easier to use. I would like to, because they're currently saved in the save RAM, so you can't really share them without just sharing your entire save file. I would like to change that. I would like to make it so when you save that, that would go into a separate file that you can then send to a friend and they can play your special stage. I don't know how to do that yet. I've got some theories. I think if I can, one of the first things I did when I was getting properly into retro engine modding was work out special stage layouts. And I managed to build a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet in which I could make a Sonic 1 special stage and then get an output from that spreadsheet, paste it into a .bin file, and rename it like stage 1 and get a working special stage from that. You guys probably remember the special stage 7 that we used to have was made that way. I think I could manipulate the save RAM, make the engine put that section of the save RAM into its own file, and if you give it the right name and put it in the right place, it should be able to load that as a custom special stage over any other special stage that you can't think of in that game. That's just theory that I've got working in my head, but as part of the reworked special stage maker, I really want to sort of get that idea of sharing special stages with your friends and making that a lot easier than it currently is.
pretty much that's kind of it. Like, and proper Team Forever credits too.
Yeah, that's like a sort of credit scenario.
Yeah, like outside of the Sonic 1 credits, we want to make like a little space to give credit to ourselves.
Long-awaited feature.
Yeah.
Credits.
Some self-congratulations, some patting each other on the back a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, we barely give ourselves recognition to some degree.
But yeah, so that's the updates we've got planned. Sonic 1 Forever has a bit of a prologue being added to it. Sonic 2 Absolute, we've got the upcoming update. And then there's ideas. There's a big conversation that we need to have at some point about what goes in next. There's a couple of ideas that we've had since we started the project, and that maybe we're getting towards the time where we want to start realising those. But there's a lot to do on Sonic 2 Absolute. Like I say, give it its own identity, make it its own thing, make it different to Forever.
Volleyball to Absolute.
Yeah.
Cool. Additionally, in the future content section, we've had a few questions which kind of link together. So such as from Bluefire asked, do you plan on adding additional levels like some of those from the 8-bit Sonic games? Additional question from the likes of Mushrunt. Are there any plans to add on to the base levels of 2 Absolute or tweak the pre-existing ones in any way? Or is there any possibility of adding new levels similar to the secret level of Labyrinth Zone from Frostwolf? So a lot of those are just kind of around, would we add outright additional or tweaked levels in any way?
Is there a secret level in Labyrinth Zone?
I don't know. Just this guy says the thing,
I think he's referring to the thing we should not talk about because it's technically.
I just think it's maybe Frostwolf like hallucinates things. I don't know.
Maybe that's a mod.
Could be.
Secret level. What?
So, no, right, yeah. We did something like that for the boss rush in Sonic 1, didn't we?
Yeah.
With Sky-based Zone, which I love. Oh, the thunder in that is amazing. I like the idea of using Bridge Zone or Jungle Zone for like a bonus level. Maybe not like make it a normal level, but add it as an extra. But then, like, what do we do? There's space there. We've got a level for it, but there's no content for it. Like, if I had a cool idea to put in Jungle Zone, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah. One question that kind of you could argue sort of already been covered, but I think there is a distinct element. Also a small amount because I kind of just want to read out this individual's username. So box with Mario plush in it asked,
Okay.
what's the current roadmap for the games? Are there more updates planned with new content? Specifically, I was hoping to kind of use this one to just check in and be able to kind of articulate in terms of how we see future updates coming at this point. We mentioned before that Forever is very close to being done. So there's nothing else massive left for that.
Just to be clear, unless something really big, like someone comes with something that we didn't expect or something
yes,
like
yes.
that, Sonic Forever 1.5 is the last big major update.
Yeah.
After that, it's going to be 1.5 point something.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect
Yeah.
a 1.6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the moment, what is our likely roadmap looking like? So what would be the next update people should expect to see?
Well, yeah, the next update I've already discussed. Menu rework for S2A, Gamble Scramble, Secret Extra. After that, the next thing to do would be to draw a roadmap for Sonic 2 Absolute. I'd like to be quite public with that. We've been quite secretive with the development of Forever. And I'd like to be more open with Sonic 2 Absolute. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
We have to talk about it a little bit. I think we have to be really... I really like the idea of keeping some stuff secret just for...
Oh, yeah.
Just to reveal it on the at the final moment.
Yeah.
Just enough information so people know are excited for it. Like outside of like a few key things that we have discussed.
I mean, what's important to avoid is, if we go on the internet and we say, oh, we're doing this, and this for Sonic 2 Absolute, is then, is Carl Emerald then just going to steal those ideas and make a mod immediately? I'm just kidding. I love you, buddy.
Why did you take the Japanese I made for the translations and add it to the game? Why did you do that? Like, I'm not even mad. I'm just curious.
But no, I think Carl's probably the biggest modder of our projects.
Anyhow, hi
Carl. Much love to him for that. But yeah,
one thing that actually Carl did mention, I will just say, as it's connected, he's saying like, I can make infinite mods for S1F when it's done updating, and that is a thing that's kind of been in the team's mind a bit.
Yeah.
Is that there's a big positive to getting each of these games over the line in terms of, right, we are not planning anything more, because then, modders can kind of go ahead and really get creative without thinking, I'm going to end up having to rewrite a bunch of this if they change something significant, which we know has happened in the past. So
what I really want actually is to sometime in the future, like once we are over with Forever, with Absolute, once this becomes our legacy to some degree, that some random group decides to take our mod and mod it to make a new Forever. That's kind of my end game with all of this.
Yeah. Because we've been talking about like what once Sonic 1 Forever's done, once Sonic 2 Absolute's done, we've got ideas for doing something else entirely. And I think we're pretty excited about that as well. So rather than doing a Ristar remaster or a Knuckles Chaotix remaster,
I'm sorry, guys. Restart Forever isn't happening.
I think that there's an appetite on the team, especially with you, Aprkot, I think, to do something original. And I definitely want to learn a proper engine. you know, one that's available and you can make your own games on.
I think you'd have a great time not fighting an engine the whole time when you're looking to do something a little bit outlandish, because that's been a thing, as I mentioned
you're
before.
making a massive assumption about game development there, Petlamb.
Well, yeah, there's you probably will still fight it, but fight it differently, at least. You know, they say a change is as good as a rest. So, you know, there's been a type of fighting RSDK that happens when you are trying to do something ridiculous, like, you know, put golf in it. And it doesn't really love that. So, yeah, it would be something different to feel frustrated by.
But yeah, that's the future. Sonic 1 got its epilogue that I've been calling a prologue the entire time. It's actually an epilogue because it's at the end of a few updates. Sonic 2 Absolute has the up-and-coming things, and then once that's out, we're going to do a proper roadmap. And then maybe definitely once that's done, we'll want to look at doing original stuff, you know, own IPs, simple little fun games, stuff like that.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
There was this. We kind of skip a question before, like from the level things. About modifying levels. I think we didn't reply that. We only talk about making new stuff, and I think the idea of modifying levels is in itself kind of its own discussion topic.
Did I miss a part of a question? Did I?
Level
layouts.
I think it's not on the discussion on Forever right now, but I think in 2A maybe there is a space for modifying and adding stuff to levels.
We've done a bit in Forever.
No, not yet.
I'm sorry?
No, nothing. No, don't worry about it.
Like there's particularly 2 bothersome Orbinauts in Sonic 1 Forever that have been removed. They're in the original game, but they just slow the pace down, and there's no benefit that I can see on a game design level for their presence. So we did just snip them.
And no one noticed.
And nothing of value is lost.
The speedrunners noticed. The speedrunners.
Yeah, no, that's true. They did. Yeah. Speedrunners see everything.
And yeah, we're not above making tweaks to level design to get a sort of better result.
Yeah.
I think there's some Badnik placements in Metropolis Zone that I want to have a look at. Some of those crabs are in really harsh positions.
Just the entirety of Metropolis.
Removed from game.
I think it's a really nice zone. A lot of people need to learn what they're doing with the starfish. That's it.
Sorry, did Elspeth just say get good?
Get good. Skill issue.
Elspeth, I'm about to deck you in the schnoz.
But no, so some of the Badnik placement in Metropolis Zone I think could use a rework. We've already there's a part of Hilltop Zone Act 2, I think it is. It's not seen very often, but it's got there's an earthquake noise and there's a sloped platform slowly rising up. We've already doubled the speed of that in Absolute because that was just far too slow in the original. But yeah, we'll probably go through it. I think what we did for Forever, Bryce Guy, one of our testers, went through the easy mode in Sonic Jam, and we sort of did a proper comb through of the changes they'd made and considered each and every one of them. I think that's where the Orbinauts went. We could maybe look at doing the same thing for Sonic 2 Absolute at some point.
I hate to randomly just intervene, but I just saw Dan say in chat room Act 3, is this Metropolis that we're talking about? I'm sitting here like, if you can't play Metropolis, that's a skill issue, sorry. It's just how the game is. That's how Sonic 2 has always been. So we can't just throw an entire stage out. We can't cut what was in the final game. That's not really how that works.
If only.
If only. I mean, we could put Genocide City, but
Yeah.
that would be even worse. Probably. Knowing Genocide City is what partially was inspired into Metropolis, I think.
I've heard different things. It's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, this might be massively incorrect, but the level layout of Metropolis Zone Act 3 is lifted entirely from Genocide City. That's what I've read. I don't know how true that is.
Cyber City fans.
Yeah, I mean, it's technically Cyber City. That's the original Japanese name. It's just that Genocide kind of was thrown around for some odd reason, I think.
Both names are on the concept art, so, you know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Really call it both.
Undertale moment.
So, Petlamb,
Now,
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to go on to say that a fairly frequent branch of questioning. Questioning makes it sound like we've been under interrogation, but let's not worry about that. Been shining lights directly in our eyes. Was around the topic of co-op / multiplayer. In a variety of ways. Asking between the likes of can co-op multiplayer from the same device be possible, being down the Lola 17. Also a question around local 2-player or online 2-player. Obviously people being aware that S2A has some originally, but there have been some issues known around that. Whether or not it's something that we could do, whether or not it's something that we would do.
So
Origins.
Origins.
Origins?
There's a bunch of stuff to solve there.
Mm.
The retro engine does have support for online competition, and the scripts are there to do it. As I understand it, the server still isn't stable.
It's basically a proof of concept as it's currently stated, and going to be as it is later today because 1.3.1 has been announced.
Yeah.
The server software, despite having jumped straight from, I think, a executable to a Python script, it's still a proof of concept and it's not entirely functional. The best performance you would ever get from it is like if you were either really close to each other in a LAN situation or had God-tier internet from NASA or whatever the fuck. It's one of those two things. Sometimes when you have high ping around in the 60s, the game descends. So it's not too stable.
Yeah.
But the code is there in Python for everyone to check out the server. I mean, entirely possible that it could be improved upon. That's what it's meant for.
My dream of forever with rollback will never be fulfilled.
I would really like to do local co-op. I think it's very important to Sonic 2 and what Sonic 2 is. I did have a look in the engine recently and see how it handles controllers. And what it basically does now, right now, it will scan every controller that the SDL2 recognizes and put them all into one place. So every input goes into one place, and then that's read by the player object. I want to say it's possible to have like a Mania thing where you confirm, like on the title screen, you confirm what controller is player 1 by pressing start. Any other controllers could be set to player 2, and then the player object and the player 2 object could read the controls from different places. I did try to do that, and it didn't work. So it's a remaining challenge that I think one day I'll have to sit down probably with you, Cosmic, and really grind out and see if we can figure something out to do that. It's definitely doable. I mean, SDL2 can handle more than one controller. It's just writing the code in the engine to make it work.
Yeah, and of course, while I might not be great with the SDL2 part of anything, I do have multitudes of controllers so that we can test between PC having keyboard and controller being the second player.
Yeah.
That and also my Nintendo console, which can also allow for that.
Now, the big question is local competition, because that means split screen.
Mm.
And
That's definitely a problem because the only engine that even remotely has split screen technology for this is the version 5 of the Retro engine. And
We are not
theoretically, we could find a way to repurpose its code if we found a way to do it, but
just go on the bagel.
it would be a bit of a big task to get split screen working.
Yeah,
And
it sounds like
it's either
rewrite the renderer.
it's basically like we backport how the renderer works into a new renderer in its entirety, like DirectX or some shit, and we get split screen working that way, or we make 2Absolute and S1F compatible with V5U, and that's kind of off the table.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's not impossible. The latter one, I'm not sure about the former, but the latter is not impossible. That just takes ages. I don't know if we would be down to
I
do
do
that.
not want to learn a second syntax. Like that's.
It's not too bad. It's easy actually.
The thing
It's
is,
just
when I was
fixing up a few
when I
things.
was in REMS, no one would explain it to me. I was like, so
I
what's
learned a
changed in the new
decent bit.
syntax? And just nobody, just like people say like, oh, a bunch of stuff. Like, oh, there's so much.
It's technically a decent bit, but the main thing you need to worry about is like platform checks and technically object main becoming object update. So like object mains don't work in the old scripts. You would have to rewrite the event to be called object update. Otherwise, I think majority of stuff works. Internal script aliases that were used that we could use like fx none and whatnot are I think done by script now, so that they're like alias based in the script rather than done through the scripting parser instead.
Yeah.
So like there's a whole list of them that I can provide that aren't in the script compiler anymore that I can just give.
Yeah.
Not
I think
too hard,
the biggest
but it's a little complicated.
the next big obstacle of doing that is the changes we've made to the engine. Basically having to redo those. The biggest one being something that I don't want to say.
Oh yeah.
Because that's linked to a thing.
The thing.
A thing TM. Okay.
If it means anything, probably doing whatever we did there and the various other changes we've made is not technically impossible to get over. In fact, it's probably not too different because our fork is pretty much exactly the same as it would be if it's just minor alterations between 1.3 and like. But it's not impossible. I think we can totally pull it off at one point, but not right now.
Yeah. Also, will it be fun? Because if it's not fun, I don't want to do it.
I mean, yeah, it'll just take a lot of time. It may not be exactly fun, but it's a learning process.
I mean, that's hard to say, to be honest, Elspeth, because you find fun in strange places.
I think Cosmic's volunteering.
Yeah, it sounded like it to me. Sure, why not?
I mean, it's not like I've done something with Sonic CD.
It's how, didn't you?
It's my own project, not related.
Yeah, that Cosmic is messing with Sonic CD. Team Forever as a group is not doing anything with Sonic CD.
It's
Team
specifically
Forever as a group is not associated with Sonic CD.
Yeah, they're not affiliated with anything with regards to the project. If anything, I'm just the one working on it. No one here is. It's been my own
Yuji
thing.
Naka took Sonic City Timeless to the jail, don't worry.
To the jail. He bought stocks in it.
He should not have done that. That was bad.
No more.
Now, we got into some quite technical stuff there. We do have some more that we're going to be coming back to in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think it wouldn't hurt to maybe have some slightly less technical stuff in the meantime, and then we'll return to some techie stuff, just so as not to completely melt everyone's brains.
It's 4 a.m. I'm already melted.
Yeah, this is one of the things
Ice cube melted.
to those watching, Team Forever is incredibly global. We span a great many time zones, and that can sometimes make scheduling tricky, but we do our best. A lot of conversations happen over text across the scale of like several hours, because it's when different people are conscious in their country. It's wild, but it works out fine. So we got some general questions, which I think are quite interesting.
Yeah.
Zolt, I don't know, GG for you. Anyway, asked, what was the hardest part in development so far? So I don't know who wants to take that.
That's funny, because I have to admit on one part, where one of the points in development where we had to redo the engine like 4 times. I mean, Elspeth had to go through it. It was so funny. But
I
also,
think
like,
the
very
answer of that is
time-consuming.
different for everyone, honestly.
Yeah. It's one we take
it's
turns with.
different.
What was yours, Aprkot?
Amy's pride work.
Oh yeah.
I sit down for a whole month before traveling here to Japan. I had the whole month free, and I spent like 20 days working on each animation. It wasn't great, the results weren't great, but, and this is something I said many times during the discussion about why we shouldn't change Amy so much. It's because it was either that or not getting her done.
Yeah.
Amy killed me. I genuinely felt disgusted to some degree during the development of Amy. I really didn't want to see her. But it turned out really great. There's still stuff to polish, obviously, but because it is what it is.
Yeah.
But and yeah, because of that, actually, it was why I ended up completely burned out.
For me, it was definitely the golf ball.
Go on.
Because it went through like 3 or 4 iterations. 3 or 4 times when I just completely deleted everything that I'd done and started again. Because I needed it to bounce off the walls and off the floor. But I also needed to use the player physics for the rolling and the tower collision and stuff like that. And I need to mark it as a player so it would land on platforms and stay on bridges and all sorts of stuff. And then I was trying to make the hitbox the size of the golf ball, and that just completely messed up with the collision sensors on it. So,
I mean, the fact that the most common word on the golf ball was rewritten, it's a bit worrisome.
Yeah. I mean, it's wonderful now. The result that we've got was worth all of it. But at the time, I was...
So yeah, Elspeth was killed by a golf ball. I was killed by a pink hedgehog. Sandman, go on.
I think for me it was either the touch controls, like oh my god, the touch controls.
Yeah.
I know you struggled with that. Do you remember the time that we had to troubleshoot a problem where like someone's save data had altered touch controls from the original base game, and then it just it turned out that like we had to struggle to find their save data just to fix it. Yeah. And then we eventually fixed it later in a later version, I think, like a hotfix.
I don't even know why the touch controls were using save data values. Why would...
It's because the original touch controls have save data positions for specifically the UI elements.
You can make them bigger.
And for some reason that invokes different things when like they're positioned for some reason. But since someone had it like very off from the normal default that we based our CD style touch controls on, it caused them to just shit themselves.
Yeah, it's just yeah, that was probably the hardest to consistently work on, especially when I was thinking like, okay, I'm making this for the Android kids.
Yeah. We at least got it down.
We don't appreciate you enough, you know?
Well, I mean, at least it does expand access as people who get to play these games now who otherwise wouldn't have. So there's definitely positives, but I think, yeah, that makes sense that you would say that it was the touch controls that killed you. Rip.
Rip. Dead.
I think it's fair that I clarify this. We didn't originally thought of making an Android port. It was purely by how demanded it ended up being, and honestly, our relationship with it's kind of negative. It's not great.
The
How
whole
we feel
thing
about
with
having.
with the touch controls, it was kind of frustrating because we purposely took it all out
Yeah.
and then we just
Yeah.
put it all back in, and so it
Yeah,
was like
we
a pain.
basically just
I
we
remember.
stripped V4s and basically just put V3s in, and then it became a whole hellscape.
Yeah, because we took it out because one, there was no sign of a mobile RSDK on the horizon, and two, people were clicking on the window to make it active again and getting a response in the menus, and they were just like, "Oh, what happened?" And getting really confused, and we were getting support emails about. So I just thought, I'm taking this out. We're never using it, so I'm just going to strip the whole thing out so it stops
Did you
causing
know?
problems. Yeah, little did I know. That's
Clueless.
What's the next question, Petlamb?
No, wait. What was the hardest part of development for you, Petlamb?
Well, that's the funny thing because obviously, I've done some testing work, so I'm credited for some testing. That's been fine. The worst thing, brutal honesty here, is the fact that, like, back when we had the public Discord,
Oh my god.
I burned out so incredibly hard. Because looking back, there wasn't like enough moderation overall, and it grew quite quickly. I know a lot of people like 600 members probably doesn't sound like a lot, but to me it felt like quite a lot. And I hit a point where I was waking up in the morning and just feeling this sense of dread of like, okay, check to make sure everything's okay, and nothing has imploded. And like, don't get me wrong, most of the time it hadn't, but it happened often enough that I'd literally be, say, falling asleep and suddenly my phone just lit up with a thing is occurring. So yeah, to be completely honest, having when the server was smaller, it was a really fun place to be. But like most things, when you scale up, you start to see some issues. And it was just a very, very stressful time. Which, as much as I know it disappointed some people, that was why we sat down and we said, you know what, like, we have to kill this. Like, if we don't stop this, on many reasons, the fact that obviously it was burning me out to an extent, it was burning Elspeth out. There was also the element that it meant that the developers for games that are like sort of independent standalone games or your big games, things like that, don't necessarily see constant unending public feedback about every small change.
Yeah.
And that can hit a point where it's, regardless of how positive, negative, anywhere in between it is, that can start to make people second guess themselves. And I felt like we were really seeing that in the team, of people second guessing their decisions, and it was impacting development, frankly.
Yeah.
So we just got to a point where we sat down and said, right, no, this has to stop. This can't be more important than the health of the team and the health of the games that we're making, because it's something that actually since the very start of this, we've been, certainly since the very start of Team Forever, we've been very, very keen on the well-being of the team is paramount. And if that even meant we stop everything and a further update didn't get made because it was harming the team, that would happen, because the people involved in this simply matter more.
Yeah, because we all know what happened at the beginning. And
yeah, the beginning was really rough. And yeah, we're just far too keen. Obviously, we have varying ages in the team. Some of our team are quite young, and you know, they've got a lot of other things on their plate. And I just, like, particularly I think Elspeth and I can get kind of protective of the younger members of our team.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, no, you shouldn't be dealing with this level of absolute nonsense. We're not having it. Like, so yeah, that was probably that was the roughest bit for me, and I genuinely spent like a couple of months after that just like putting my brain back together again. It was really rough, actually. Yeah. Was there anything that particularly destroyed you, Cosmic, or have you found it altogether more bearable than the rest of us?
Well, as a person who has dealt with a lot with their life, it's been more or less just like things like this don't super faze me. I'd rather not get in too deep into my personal life with regards to what I've dealt with, but the fact of the matter is, if anything, the most stressful things have been mostly just trying to understand how the retro engine has worked over the years. At the start I joined the team, I basically was a tester, and it grew into artist at one point because I actually did make an art asset or two, as well as a trailer with a very basic first trailer. That was me.
It wasn't
I love that
basic.
trailer.
That's a gorgeous trailer.
I still need to iterate on that. I want to reiterate that as a future thing, but I don't know how I'm going to do it. I need to learn a bit more on that. But as I strayed away from video editing, I did work better into scripting and understanding how the retro engine works to a degree. I still get assistance from Elspeth and Zan and other people within the retro engine modding community because there are things I do get confused on. But overall, I had struggled initially with the engine itself and how scripting languages work, especially around the time where things were just a little weird, like how not all the aliases were just straight up in the script for me to read, and that's how all of them were just in the fucking script compiler. And that kind of confused the shit out of me until recently, where now we actually have cleaned up scripts going to be releasing today. So it helps me read that and also work on Forever in case if I need to look into the code.
Yeah, because I think you more than anyone else are still in touch with the base decomp side of things, aren't you?
Yes, I am one of the decomp assistants helping out with V3 and V4.
Yeah.
And by extension, a bit of V5, but that's mainly just to find bugs.
Yeah.
But we basically work on V3, V4. That's what the decomp assistants usually have access to help out, as well as the scripts. We've been hard at work getting all that done. That's been a separate stressful thing, but yeah. It's basically nearing ready to go today, whenever that comes out. But as for Forever, it's mainly just been the initial learning process. I've been managing though, so it's been going. It still confuses the shit out of me at some points. Like, Elspeth, do you want to explain that one point of code that you found recently?
Oh, you'd have to remind me.
Do you remember that temp 0?
Oh,
that Jack the Draw sprite?
That was me. That was me. I think what happened was that used to be something probably with a character check, because obviously in the mobile app you choose your character and then you get the title screen.
Correct.
Whereas we just have the base title screen because it's the first thing you see, and then you go into the menus. And I think it was something left over from that, and this was back at right at the beginning, so I knew a lot less about the script than I do now. So it was basically, yeah, so we set a variable as 1, and then immediately checked that it wasn't 0 before drawing a sprite. And that's all it was for. That's all it did. And it must have done something else at some point, but I've ripped that out, but just left that little bit behind because baby Elspeth thought, I don't quite know what I'm doing with this, so I only want to take out what needs to be taken out. And
yeah,
there's probably like tons and tons of cringe script that I've written in Forever.
Oh yeah, there's probably be some there that anyone's written in it.
Yeah.
Zan, you, me, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can happen, yeah.
Found something. If 0 equal 1.
Yeah.
Crazy shit. Also,
So-
just recently a comment came through. It was a bit of a sidetrack question, but Origins Plus. Do we want to answer that?
What's there
I
to get
mean-
into? It doesn't even exist yet.
I mean,
it doesn't exist because we don't know what it is. It's been in the know personally because a rating thing happened in Korea, but it also seemingly has happened recently on Steam, as far as my research is
Oh,
conducted.
here we are. Retro Jordan. Are
But-
you guys looking forward to
Yeah,
Origins
but-
Plus?
I think we should give to begin with our opinions on Origins, like as a whole.
I mean, I
Yeah,
think
let's start with Origins
it's
first.
difficult for us to talk about Origins because any criticisms or any negative comments could be seen as a fear of competition.
Me.
You know?
Yeah,
like
that's awkward. It's technically competition.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, don't remind what happens.
like, so I think we're in a bit of an odd position to comment on
Yeah.
what we think about Origins, how we think it was executed, because, you know,
We all have diverse opinions about the whole game as a whole.
yeah, but we
First,
kind of
it's
look like we have skin in the game, you know.
Yeah. I've stated my own opinions about the game publicly, as well as thoughts of what it could be for Plus, but it's all just a matter of like personal opinions around the team, and you know, as we said,
It's an appear in the news for it.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a
I mean,
weird
hey-
week.
Zan's on the
Hey,
on public records.
It was such
If
a week,
anything-
yeah.
If
Oh,
anything,
man.
Origins Plus, Knuckles. That is all I'm going to say. That is all I'm going to say. Please, whoever the intern at Sonic Team, Knuckles, in CD, that is all you need to do. Just please.
Petlamb,
Like,
any good questions from chat?
There have been a few. I've been keeping track of some of the ones that we might want to look back at. Let me have a look through. I think a lot of them we've actually either already covered or we already have listed to go through. One of the things I want to sort of combine a couple of questions from a user, Lewis Angel, who'd asked how many people have worked on this. They also asked, why are we called Team Forever?
Oh God.
I mean, how many? I guess the first thing would be, honestly, look at the credits on the website. You can see there's a lot of people both sort of directly working on it and also a lot of people who've been credited for bits of help here and there from sort of outside or work that we've built off of that's been absolutely invaluable.
Yeah.
So a lot is the short answer to that. It would be really hard to pull a figure
I think
out
the,
of
the
thin air.
last time I counted, the team numbered 20. There's the core.
20?
Yeah, like there's a lot of people in the team who don't do very much, and that's fair. No, it's like
It sounds savage, but it is true.
it's like what they do is valuable.
Yeah.
I love having them. And
But also,
their
this is a
input
hobby
really,
for everyone,
really useful.
and
Yeah,
a
not
lot of
everyone's
these
got the
people
time.
need to be doing
Yeah,
not a
everyone
huge
works at
amount
their
because
own
they've got a
rhythm.
real
The
life.
fact the fact they're just there, sometimes that's enough. Honestly.
I'd say that the core team is us and Retro, who doesn't have a mic, but I think he's in the chat. Hello, Retro.
I love you guys.
Um,
Retro turned up in the chat when it was getting bullied earlier to fight back.
and then I think among the testers, there's people drop in and out when they're testing.
Yeah.
I will
Bri-
say Bryce.
Bri does a
definitely
lot.
our most-
Yeah.
Yeah, Bryce is our most consistent tester.
Yeah. Truth Tomato used to do an awful lot, but he's been a lot busier recently.
Oh, those bugs that Truth Tomato found that you just go, how did you find this?
Yeah.
Like, it was just like a work of magic. Like, no one else could have spotted it, and he just pulls it from nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Then you've got like people like Thunder, EA, who's a recent addition to the team as well. So yeah, there's a few people who do a lot of work, and a lot of people
Cyber
who
Simbra
do.
is definitely someone who
Yes,
is
actually,
around
yeah,
a lot.
yeah. Cyber's a lot. Does a lot.
Hi Cyber, hope you have a good day.
But it's good that we have, like I say, those people, because point one, I don't feel like this team ever judges kind of other team members based on like a weird sort of metric of you have contributed 7 units of Sonic to this game in the
Yeah.
last month. Like, we're not doing appraisals on each other, like,
Yeah.
and that's whenever in the past like anyone's been a bit stressed, like, oh, am I doing enough? And it's like, Yes,
Yeah.
you're here. You have contributed stuff. That's cool. Like, we're having a good time. We all care about each other's well-being. Not to sound like too soppy here, but we do. And we'd always rather there be that flexibility to say, you know, if your personal life is getting really busy, like if you've got something going on with work, school, if you've got exams happening, if you've got whatever's going on, like, yeah, absolutely, you can step back and do less for a while. You don't even need to, like, get approval for that. Just, like, mention what's going on, and that's completely cool. So, yeah, it's good that there's a lot of us here, because it does mean there's more flexibility. How did we land on the name? Who remembers what?
The
Some of this was a couple of years ago now.
We didn't have a name, and people just started calling us Team Forever.
Team Forever. Yeah.
And we came to a discussion about it, and we thought, we're not going to be able to change it, you know? If we try and call ourselves something different, it's just not going to stick. So I guess we're named after Sonic Forever.
We are Team Forever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't underscore.
What does Team Forever mean? Like, besides being like Sonic One
Let the-
Forever, like I don't
Let
really.
the public decide, I guess.
Yeah, like, we named Team Forever after Sonic Forever. And we named...
Because we never goddamn finished development. No, carry on.
And we named Sonic Forever what we named it because a big part of what we wanted to do was to celebrate the replayability and enhance the replayability of the game, and to make it something that you can always come back to and play some more.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's where it comes from.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds cool. That works for me.
Yeah, I think it's worked out pretty well.
Fits like a glove now.
Do we want to mention that underscore did just recently say that we called ourselves Team Unfunny for a very short time before we chose the final name? What was that about?
God knows.
Like, what was
I
that?
mean, that was pretty much the teenagehood of the project, I guess. Or weird
Team
face,
lame.
or we don't know what we are face.
Team D's.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would have been absolutely hilarious if we actually stuck with Team Unfunny just to put God on the fucking artwork. You know, like I'm gonna send like the text chat here, but like, let me fucking find this creature. Can
I mean,
stickers here?
How
Okay.
people would perceive us will be really, really different if we end up calling us Team Unfunny.
Team Unfunny, but we got it in as the fucking mascot.
That's what we're going to call the CD remake.
Funny.
Sonic CD
God
Unfunny.
fucking damn it.
Funnily enough,
days,
actually. Sorry, go
funny
on.
enough, I will. And one of these days, I will modify the CD title screen to just say "God fucking damn it." One of these days.
The mention of how people kind of perceive us / the projects, and this is like a sort of awkward couple of questions, because a couple of people asked the question of how would you feel being praised several times when people have said that S1F and S2A are the best ways of playing these games, and someone else had said, how would you feel after having created one of the most famous remakes of Sonic 1 and 2, which both feel quite big statements.
It's weird.
Weird.
I don't know.
It's
I don't know if
Yeah.
it's just me. It's weird to
I
hear.
feel-
Like,
feel
I think the
bewildered.
first thing I should do is clarify. We are not remakes. We are not anything alike. We
We're-
are improvement mods.
Yeah.
We are an improvement
Exactly.
mod.
We're basically like a full-on update in a sense, like a content feature update to
Yeah,
the existing remaster.
Yeah.
Taxman and Stealth
I've always said
remade the
that.
game. Taxman and Stealth remade the game.
Without those two
Trevor
fellows,
Dokikuli and Chuli
permission by
made the
Sega,
decom.
we wouldn't have had
We
this.
are.
Like, I see people like even in the chat saying like, "Oh, Sega should hire you.
Like, no,
Sega should put your like
Let
no,
me
please
put
no."
this into his perspective here.
I
There's
mean, I
recent
could go to Sega
situation.
offices right now, and they're probably going to kick me out.
Yeah.
True. So let me put this into perspective that makes sense, because this was recently brought up by a different YouTuber with a different game in its entirety. Portal 2, for example, would not have existed if two people made Portal the Flash version. Our projects, Sonic 1 Forever and Sonic 2 Absolute, would not exist if Taxman did not make Retro Sonic.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's how much
absolutely.
of a big deal it is. we would not be here if it wasn't for Taxman and his initial ventures off in his own stuff. And if anything, we stand on the shoulders of Taxman, Stealth, Rubber Ducky Cooley, and Truly, like we've mentioned before. They're the reason we're here, basically. All of them.
What if, though? What if Sonic Origins wouldn't have happened if we didn't do what we're doing?
Oh, we would be in a better timeline.
Oh.
Could you imagine?
We are
Oh my god. Do you imagine if, like, we didn't do Sonic 1 and Sonic 2, and then, like, Sonic 3 came out as an Apple, fucking Android release? The Sonic 3 just releases on iOS and Android.
I agree, Android, no way.
To be honest, if someone at Sega looked at what we're doing and then went, you know, there's a lot of demand for this, Sonic 1 should be on PC, and they did it, and they didn't put arcade mode in, then...
Get out.
Skill issue.
That's amazing.
I mean, if anything, if they want something like that, they could have easily just gotten fucking M2 and probably said, hey, port Sega Ages to PC.
Yeah.
And they know how to get widescreen, I assume, working. They're not too untalented with the Genesis stuff, so... I mean, their drop dash works.
Yeah.
Massive air quotes there on work.
I mean, it works better than what Origins
It works, asterisk. Let's give it that.
It doesn't Origins not let you change its direction?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
starting
does.
the drop dash should get you out of roll lock, and it
Yeah,
doesn't
neither do.
in 1 and 2 in Origins. I think I didn't buy Origins, so I don't know.
They did not. Only CD does.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have roll jump block.
Origins,
Sega Ages has the roll jump block problem, but it circumvents it by allowing you to still change your direction upon landing a drop dash. It still exists, but M2 can probably manage to some degree if they did it. So, who knows?
Sorry, go ahead.
Just like really quick with the Origins talk, like as much as it has issues, it still is an important game for consoles, in my opinion.
It's also important for PC too. Recent things are going to happen that are going to change the scope of Origins as a modding scene.
Yeah, like I think Origins, like with like one more update, could probably be pretty good if they just fix some things.
Hey, San, please don't forget to trash talk it. So
oh yeah, sorry, yeah, absolute shit.
Set the line.
Set the line, Zan. But yeah, as someone who's been in the modding thing for like overseeing the scripts and everything that I've been recently going to release today, whenever that's going to be, Origins will actually be able to be modded, at least in the CD 1 and 2 side of things, so people might be able to bring new content to those games.
Yeah.
So before, Sega goes out of their way to throw the update at us when it releases today, who knows?
Yeah.
I hate that, by the way. Like, you imagine, like, being, like, a modder, and then you release this cool mod, and suddenly, game update. Nothing fun.
Yeah, it will be horrible if we did something like that, yeah?
Yeah,
absolutely awful. Who would do such a thing?
Yeah.
I'm
so glad we are free of sin here, yeah.
Well, the worst part, though, is that if Origins Plus happens and they remove the script compiler, it's all over. It's Joker for Origins if they remove the script compiler. I'm sorry. I hope they don't. I hope they keep it, but it's a worry that I've been having since Origins Plus has been announced.
I mean, the fact that
I disagree.
Origins modding is maybe dead on arrival, it's kind of funny.
It was semi-dead on arrival, yeah. All people can do so far is, like, basic data mods and, like, sprite replacements and the various things. Sometimes stage mods, if you know what you're doing without scripts.
Yeah.
But it's more or less just... It pretty much was, like, modding CD before any of the cooler shit happened, basically. That's how it was for a while.
Yeah.
But it will change today, once we get everything ready to go. Just hoping Sega blesses us with the script compiler once again in this next update. Who knows what the hell they're going to do.
Now,
yeah, that's pretty much the short of it.
Obviously, we mentioned before the fact that none of this would have happened without the efforts of many other people, obviously both from Taxman Stealth, from so Robert Cooley and Chuli. Something that came up in a couple of ways was how our projects have intersected with other modders and other projects. So I'm going to give you a couple of questions because they kind of work together. Apollyon had asked, what quality of life improvements did you quote-unquote borrow from other similar projects, and which ones would you like to add? And likewise, Works of Magic had asked, do you collab with members from other RSDK modding teams to work on 1F and 2A, or is the team mainly comprised of people who exclusively work on these mods? So obviously, we've touched on it a little bit in terms of there is some sort of overlap. People do have other projects, and we've had a lot of help from other people.
Yeah.
So anyone like to take that on?
I mean, there's a few names I can think of straight away that are in the special thanks of the credits. You know, people like obviously Robert Cooley, Leon X264, Megami, Lavesheim, people like that who have helped with things, contributed stuff, answered my questions when I didn't know so much about the engine side of things, and have made really valuable contributions. They aren't members of the team. I don't think they want to be members of the team, but they've definitely had an impact on the projects.
Yeah, and we've also had impacts on some other parts of projects as well. Do you remember the time where, for the longest time in V3 and V4, the millisecond timer wouldn't fucking reset proper?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, we found that out while looking at it, and then we basically contributed that to the main forks of the engine. So now, because of contributions from you and me and various people here, that thing works. Took us a bit to figure out, but we did it.
Yeah.
And hey, we're lucky that now we have a functioning millisecond timer in Sonic CD. That was apparently a problem for the longest time due to fucking Steam CD being used.
Yeah.
I want to believe, even if we are the ones, leading the forever sheep.
The forever sheep.
I don't know how to do it.
That's okay.
We are definitely not in a vacuum. We exist in all the environment that is the RSDK modding, and I want to believe that people are free to contribute and borrow from us.
Yeah.
As much as we do from others.
I mean, one thing that excites me is figuring out how to do something in RSDK, and putting it in forever. But then it's done, and if someone else wants to know how to do that, they can reference that code. Not necessarily steal it, not necessarily just copy and paste it.
But take it, but
let's not talk about stealing code, please.
But and that's what I like most about the work I do on these projects. It's tackling those big problems and solving those big problems. Like the Mania accurate rotation, getting that ported over was really fun. Because that's obviously in Sonic Mania, that's all written in C or C++. It's written in a proper language, and I've had to figure out how to put it into the game script. And that was really, really rewarding. And then that's just there, so if someone else wants to do that, they can look at what I've done and went, that's good. As far as quality of life borrowing from other things, the massive thing that springs to mind to me is skipping the act results points tick down, which is lifted straight from Sonic 3A. I think it's just so important because watching that thing can be so tedious sometimes, and there's just no need for it to be that way. But I think it speeds it up 20 times when you hold a button. It doesn't just end it immediately, because it's still nice to feel it tick down, but just making it that much faster, so it's almost instant. I think that's a really important addition.
Sonic, your question. If there are only 5 people on the stream.
Yeah, I was attempting to reply to that in text, and it all just went a bit wrong.
I mean,
We
There
can
would be
call
more people, but
underscore
it's just
retro
dependent, like, if they
cyber
wanted to talk, but only a
true
few
Yeah.
tomato Jan.
I think.
Yeah,
Something that was mentioned earlier, it's kind of some core members who are also comfortable and happy being on mic.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
everyone wants to do this, and that's valid. And not everyone's always free. But yeah, so we have some representatives, kind of cover representatives to cover the different areas as well that we've had work done in.
Engine wise, code, art. I mean, I think I'm the only artist here, but
Yeah, but you are the lead artist. So
I would have
and
liked to
cool.
have Retro
Yeah.
in the chat, but I see he doesn't want to go on mic, and that's fine. But shout outs to Retro _ King the Meme. There are people in the chat as well who are members of the team.
okay, cool. It's 5 a.m.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Aprkot, for the timing of this for you.
I mean, I'm not tired anymore, which is not great because I have to do something in like 7 hours. But
Correct. Oh no.
anyhow,
An interesting question I thought that someone actually posed was, why did we want to create Forever and Absolute in the first place?
Oh, are we doing the origin story?
The origin story.
I mean,
It sounds like it.
I think Lizzie would be the one here
So,
to explain the whole thing.
So when we started, some of you guys might remember Sonic 1 Decomp Refresh.
Hey, it took us around 1 hour and 50 minutes for a second mission.
Sonic 1 Decomp Refresh. So there was sort of a merge between two projects. So someone working on a menu mod, because the base decomp had a very bare bones menu, and I was working on bug fixes. So, for example, in the base decomp at that time, just because of the version of the app that had been decompiled, there was a bug with jumping close to the surface of the water would shoot you straight into the air. And there was a bunch of little things like that. And at the time, the guys working on base decomp, but Robert Cooley and Shirley, were reluctant to fix it because it was a decompilation of the mobile port as it is and as it was. It wasn't within their purview to fix bugs that were in the port, because then it wouldn't be reflective of what the port actually was.
Yeah, at the time that the game was decompiled, at least script-wise, that bug was actually prevalent in the mobile port. It was actually later fixed and was introduced into the script massacre.
Yeah. But at the time, they weren't fixing it, and I was getting somewhat frustrated with that. So I had a big bug fixes mod, or a couple of them actually, one for Sonic 1 and one for Sonic 2. And me and this other person just thought that if we sort of teamed up, we could make something akin to 3A that was more of a definitive PC experience and less about recording the history of the mobile port and more of something just to play. You sit down, it's got a normal menu like a PC game would have, like 3A has, and you can access all the options and things like that in a decent looking UI and graphical interface. That blew up. Aprkot was introduced to the team of Decomp Refresh.
to be fair, I just kind of popped into existence in this circle.
You did. It was. I remember kicking up a fuss because you got added to the team as an asset artist, and you got an individual credit, but I was still under the banner of the team name, whatever it was at the time. And I remember going, "Wait a minute! If Aprkot's getting
remember that?
if Aprkot's getting an individual credit, why aren't I getting an individual credit?" So that changed, and then that fell apart. The other person became somewhat abusive.
Yeah.
Imploded
Somewhat. I wouldn't take a rest, I think, when they needed to, and became quite toxic as a result of that. So we decided to split ways. we removed that person's work from the project.
We have
Um,
a Cold War for like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Sandman, that's where we met Sandman.
yeah. And then we took a step back. We looked at what we had, and we decided what we wanted to do. And at this point, there was only really me and Aprkot working on the project, with Petlamb sort of managing the Discord server for us. And we had all this stuff. I was like, right, where we're going, what do we want to do with this? What's our goals with it? And that's when we decided to focus on the replayability and sort of celebrate the way that Sonic fans do keep going back to this game, even like 30 years after it's been made. And I think it was Aprkot came up with the name Forever to reflect that. And then that started. We had our own Discord server that was sort of semi-public, and people would join that to learn more about the project. And then we started recruiting testers there. People like Zanman, Retro sort of joined the team at that point, just as testers.
I mean, Retro was from the very beginning, I think.
Yeah. Retro was hanging around the project back in the Decom Refresh days. He was like making mods for it and stuff. But yeah, we started asking for testers, and then it sort of got bigger and bigger. And I think there was a time when we didn't really treat testers.
I'm sorry. Let me screenshot the question. The last question. Ever in chat. Who's holding Zan?
Sorry. Yeah, Sonic Mania had asked who's holding Zan.
Zan is tiny. I'm holding him.
Wow.
I have to hold him up so he appears on the stream. Sorry.
Wow.
Otherwise, he'll fall. He can fly, but he can't stay on screen.
But yeah, there was a time where we didn't really consider the test as part of the team. Not that their work wasn't valuable, but we wouldn't tell them about the secrets.
We were in a kind of weird relationship after the split about adding more people to the team. It took a while for us to properly get the idea of let's make a team and have more people like properly work on this.
Like we turned to these guys who were like we were putting up test builds on the Discord server, and you know there were things like the secrets in Labyrinth Zone and we weren't telling them, and we weren't telling them our plans, and I think that affected the level of feedback we were getting and how useful it was. So we decided to listen, okay, we need to start treating you like colleagues. We need to start treating you like partners. And we need to start opening up. And I remember making this big long post about how we were going to change going forward. And attached to it was all of the secret plans that only me and Aprkot and Petlamb knew about. And just sort of letting everybody in on these big secrets that we were working on. And that caused a lot of excitement. And then from there, because people were more involved in that process, but they started learning more. Retro started a campaign to get the artist role on the team.
No, wait. Before Retro tried to code. First, Retro tried to code.
Yeah, you're right. You tried learning
like
script.
for a couple of weeks, and I don't really recall why he started to work on art. I think he started making sprite fixes or something alike, and from there he kept going and kept going and kept going.
And that's why Greenhouse Mountains look like they are today.
Like I'm really happy of seeing. I was able to see Retro's progress almost weekly.
Yeah,
like
I kept
Retro's a great artist.
Yeah, Retro has grown so much.
We've been a team. It's our second anniversary as a team on Monday. And we've been a team for 2 years, and watching Retro go from someone who wanted to do art and kept submitting art to try and get the role to this really accomplished sprite artist with his own style now, and is really knowledgeable about techniques and styles and all this stuff, and it's been amazing to watch, and he's been invaluable to the process. And similarly, Zanman, you have learned a lot of script and how that works and what you can and can't do within it, and the tools you have. And watching that again has been brilliant, really rewarding. So
Cool.
yeah, that's how we started.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the abridged version with
Although-
less tea, but still tells an accurate story.
I do like to
That's
mention
the
that
rich
one-
version. That's the worst part.
Just like
We could do a
slight
whole
minor
podcast
addendum
just
to
talking
it.
about how the forever lore
The law,
at
yeah.
this point.
Yeah.
Wanted to make a small addendum to it though. It wasn't strictly called Decomp Refresh at one point. At some point, it did change the name to South Island Refresh.
No, it
If
didn't.
No.
anyone recognizes
No,
it.
no.
That was after the
Ju-
split.
That's
That's after
another
the split?
group. That's
Right,
another
yes,
group. That's
yes,
another
yeah.
group.
Oh, okay. So the you guys
That-
didn't have that.
So
Okay,
yeah,
fair.
so
Yeah, the person we kicked from the team, that was the person making
Yeah.
that thing.
Yeah.
We don't associate with that.
It was
It's-
the results of that were kind of funny because I remember some bits and pieces.
Yeah.
It's-
It was
I
a
don't know if I want to get into too much of it, but
it's
some of
a
the art
tale.
was
It's
very
certainly a tale.
questionable.
But yeah, no. The Decomp Refresh team of 3 people split. Me and Aprkot continued what we'd contributed to become Forever. The other person took what they'd contributed and became South Island Refresh. And because of
And after a while, that project imploded,
yeah, it had no features.
and it was kind of like recovering refugees, like the people from
Pretty
the
much.
team,
Yeah,
from
actually,
the
that was-
wings of the team.
That was quite nice, actually, to be able to accept a good number of people who had remained with the other member and who'd said, okay, like I'd like to have a place there. And you had a lot of little reunions, which was really nice. Actually, it was very much the good ending. I think was achieved.
Yeah.
Speaking of good endings, don't know if this was ever answered,
Right.
says Junio, but what happened to the Twitter account? Now, I suppose I get start for this one because,
Yeah.
like, that's kind of my domain. That one's quite recent. There was a discussion internally within the team, in particular myself and Elspeth, because we were the ones doing most of the Twitter stuff.
I'm
And
bad
we-
at social media. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. We felt as though we'd gotten to a point where we didn't want to almost endorse Twitter as a platform by being there. We didn't feel like it was somewhere we wanted to maintain a presence. And as a result, decided to take that decision. I don't know if there's any further sort of insight that you'd like to offer to that one. Elspeth.
The reason the Twitter account was deleted is because I sent the message, Twitter is dump Lemao.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
pretty specific, kind of.
yeah, kind of, yeah. So, 2 issues with Twitter. When let's say it with chest when Elon Musk took over.
Yeah, yeah.
One
Yeah.
was the rise in extremist content, and
Yes.
sort of the confidence with which that extremist content was being presented. And the second was the laying off of the vast majority of the information security team and
Yes.
the risks that posed to the users. And it just felt that there was 2 very different but very serious risks to both ourselves as Twitter users and any people that were on Twitter for our content as well. And I just didn't feel right continuing to have a presence on that platform and provide content to that platform when it wasn't a safe place to be anymore. So I floated the idea, and Aprkot responded, Twitter is dumb lol, and I took that as a yes when it wasn't
Had a
necessarily.
little bit more behind. Like I wanted to leave Twitter. I didn't want the account to be deleted, but like nothing of value was lost.
No,
Yeah.
I saw that and I went, yeah, okay, he's happy, that's fine. Burnt the whole thing to the ground.
Fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I was expecting something less drastic. To be fair,
Why?
Yeah, like
See, that's the thing.
I'm annoyed by the
Post or
result.
something.
Not really.
Like, for all the fact that this team's been together for like 2 years, a bit less when that decision was taken, Elspeth and I have been in a relationship for like 10 years this summer. I completely expected something that drastic.
Yeah,
So,
sorry.
yes,
Yeah,
to clarify,
I'm
yes.
still. I'm still. I mean, we're kind of. I would say very starting to become close friends at this point, like are properly close friends.
Yeah.
I will say. I can't read Elspeth that well yet.
I can be somewhat impulsive. I can be somewhat protective.
Yeah.
And I'm very easily distracted. Those are my 3 main facts, I think.
You know, that is the TLDR primer for Elspeth, yeah. But yeah, in particular, whether or not certain people want to kind of, I guess, acknowledge this or not, like, because I feel like some people do and some people don't, but a lot of the Sonic fandom is a particularly queer and trans space, and often for younger individuals. And another thing to say is that, and I'm saying this with my chest, is that a lot of the hate on Twitter that was being accepted, that wasn't being acted on anymore, was transphobic. And particularly when you've got the chief twit also doing the same stuff, and it's just like, we just do not want... If there's any part of why someone was keeping a Twitter account was to stay up to date with whatever we were doing, the idea that we could just take away that sort of incentive was great, because it was like, no, like, your safety matters so much more than you being on any platform, and if we can just disincentivize that a little bit, I think it was worth doing, because like, everyone's well-being matters, and it became a very bad place to be. And so yeah, again, really a lot like the Discord, obviously different sort of risks, different problems, but again, it was about the health of the project and the health of the users as well. So yeah,
it's worth reiterating that trans rights are human rights.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And you know, that's something as well that we've been very open with. We have some members on the team, obviously not naming names because that's not my place to do so, but myself included, we have queer team members, and we're just like, it's a very, very simple line in the sand, is that if you are a transphobe, please feel free to fuck off. I will say that much. I don't care if you like our projects or you don't. If you are a bigot of any flavour, I'm not interested in dealing with you. But yeah, off that heavier topic.
Next question.
Yes, but I think it's important to say it directly.
Yeah.
Just for the trivia, Elspeth, you are like the second trans person I've ever met. Like, I wasn't in the Sonic community before, so I wasn't like, I barely know any people like outside of the circle and outside of my personal circle. So yeah, I don't know why people tend to have difficulties accepting people living their lives.
It's a long story. We can't address it here. Next question.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
The bit that I mentioned before, earlier on, I said we'd have a bit of general questions just to give people a break from the more technical stuff. Most of these next section are more technical focus to them.
Time to slip.
Aprkot rests. So there was a question asked, are there any plans on making custom music loop points possible in a mod.ini file a la Sonic Mania's mod manager? That's from Sunky the Pudis.
I can answer that one, technically. Here's the thing. That kind of thing is, theoretically, like, by technicality possible. But the problem is that I don't think most of us here have experience with the actual internal mod API and how it works. Hell, even if you look into current, like, Sonic Mania's decompilation in V5, it doesn't even have that either. It doesn't work. So loop points in the mod.ini, while it could be possible, would require a lot of finesse, I believe, with both the mod API and the script compiler of some kind. I am unsure of like how much effort it would be, but in theory it's possible. But the reason why Mod Manager for Mania on Steam has this ability is because the mod loader in question was coded to have this, and to read the mod.ini directly for loop points, and to override the game functionality with a custom bass audio player. Otherwise, if you didn't have this mod loader, Mania wouldn't be able to read this anyway. It's not built into the engine by default.
Yeah.
So we would have to figure out a way to implement that system similar to that to the V4 and V3D or V4
which is something we can do, because we forked the engine, so we can add things if they're within our ability.
I believe the best idea would probably be to like talk to main memory about that, since they're the one who I think developed that mod loader, or the manager at least. I believe they were the one that did that. I have to double check. Hold on. Who made the Mania mod manager? Was it me?
I think off the top of my head, any I'm going to get quite technical here, but any music file is going to have the same loop point wherever it's referenced in the script, which means you could remove the loop point from the script part and tell the engine when it receives a played music command or swap music command, to reference a list of loop points connected to song file names. That's just off the top of my head. I don't know how I would implement that, but I think just having one place where the loop point is written down instead of every time the song is called in the script would be where I would start.
Cool.
Sam, do you want to rant about something?
Yeah, I just saw someone in Sonic Geared, I think it was, say that, do you guys consider REMS like a half house to a Team Forever project server? No.
No.
No. Don't go to REMS and start asking about Team Forever stuff.
Like, it's an RSDK project, and they are an RSDK modding server, and I think they will answer questions about Forever and Absolute when posed them. I wouldn't say it's an official support channel.
Certainly not, no. And it's reasonable that they could find it frustrating over there to get a lot of that. So I would say, use sense.
Yeah.
Please.
Engage social skills.
Yes, that would be ideal. Speaking of Discord servers, actually, a user called Nugget asked if there was any chance we would make a Discord server only for bugs and suggestions, as it's not very intuitive to use YouTube for this kind of thing.
XD.
XD. One thing I would say is that it's not really intended that, as things stand, you'd use YouTube to report bugs and suggestions. We do have an email on our website that's listed. If you shoot us an email through that, we will endeavour to get back to you. We can't promise to always respond to everything, particularly the likes of suggestions, but in terms of if you are having technical issues, bugs, things like that, the best way to get a response is via the email inbox. It's very easy for us to miss something on the YouTube. I'll be honest, we are never going to make another Discord server. I will just plant my feet in that particular answer right now, because as we said earlier, to be honest, it didn't work well for us. It became quite a source of stress. So yeah, we would endeavour for you to email us. I know that's quite boomer, but it is the best approach for this one.
It does touch as well on the loss of Twitter, because Twitter was really useful for that kind of thing. And it sort of hammers home the fact that we are sort of without a home now, as far as social networks are concerned. Like, YouTube is the only place, obviously there's our website, but YouTube's the only real social media place.
It sure is that website, yes.
Where we have a presence, and I think a lot less people are hearing about us now because of that. And I don't know where else we can go that sort of has that functionality. Obviously, it's not something I'm going to go back to Twitter for until those problems are solved.
Yeah.
But
you know, if we were in the future, maybe we would.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we know YouTube's not great for it. Obviously, like, we do see every comment you put, so you know, it will get to us. If you put a comment, but definitely if you've got a bug, email us. It's normally me that'll respond, and I'll be able to talk you through fixing issues and stuff like that.
Cool. There have also been a few sort of direct technical questions about specific issues. Sonic Bro asked how they would go about updating the software. Obviously, normally I'd say refer to the website that is information about updating on PC, but they do want to say that they're using the APK version and don't know how to update.
It depends how you set it up. To be honest, if you're updating, first of all, uninstall the APK and download a fresh one from the website and install that. And then get the mod-only version and use that to overwrite your game files. So your data folder and your scripts folder. Delete those and replace them with the ones in the mod-only version. And that will essentially update your Sonic Forever.
Yeah, that's basically our basic code, like, to actually get Forever working on Android. But basically, that's how our setup guides work.
Yeah.
Because of people have written it.
Like, one of the big reasons we didn't do an Android port for the longest time is we don't have the ability to make it as easy to set up as the PC. With the PC, we can write a script to unpack everything for you and put everything in the right place. With mobile, we can't do that. So it's always going to be a bit more of a power user thing. You've got to really know what you're doing in order to get it working. And that's something I would like to change, but not something I necessarily think that I can.
Yeah.
I don't know if we all have the basic idea, or not basic idea, the whole, like, proper know-how to pull that kind of thing off on Android, and more or less Nintendo Switch, actually. This is the reason why I always have to say this to people when they want to install the Android and Switch ports, is that these are for more slightly advanced users, and you would need to go through the guides to step by step, without fail, to do it proper.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just probably going to accidentally miss one step, and then suddenly the game turns into Sonic CD.
This project is intended for users who aren't so technical, but want to play widescreen Sonic 1 and 2 on their PC.
It was originally developed for just PC.
Yeah. If you are technical, I'd recommend getting into RSDK modding yourself and having fun with that. Get the base decomp, have a play around with it, and make something wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, there is still also a forever and absolute modding scene as well. So if you find yourself in the position where maybe you're used to the additional stuff that's been added by the team, whatnot, you like that, then obviously also, keep using that. Sure, look into the modding scene there, because I've seen a lot of people, particularly back when we had the Discord server, who got into modding through liking these games and finding that it was something that they could do.
Yeah.
And just sort of learning from there. So it is something that you could potentially look at as well.
Yeah.
Dan the Loller asked, if you could, would you remaster all well, actually says, if you could you remaster all the tracks in S1F and S2A that weren't in the originals? So I'm not completely clear on the meaning there.
If
But
I
I know
could,
that if you interpretive work, feel free.
if I could,
know
then
what it
yes, I
means,
could.
but yeah.
Yeah.
The remastered tracks. So yeah, when the games were ported to mobile, they remastered the music that was in them. Oh, has the Aprkot dropped? I think it's time. I think you might want to go to sleep.
Yeah, that is
Yeah,
valid.
that's fine.
If
If it helps, I can also refer to some of the things Taxman said.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna try to refer to what he basically used. Taxman at the time when he was remastering S1 and S2, this is because of this whole soundtrack remaster thing that people have been having like issues or loving it. It depends on the person. Taxman used Sound Studio 3, which is a sound clip editor encoder program like Audacity. He used it to encode the raw audio renders to OGG and prep loop points. The mastering was done in Logic Pro X with a bunch of plugins. He can't remember what the FX chain setup was, but basically it was like a combination of compression, spatial processing, EQ, etc. And he rendered everything out as an AIFF and then brought it into Sound Studio to prep OGG export. That's how the entire process went in terms of remastering the soundtrack for Sonic 1 and 2.
So we basically either need to do the same for our new tracks or redo everything so it's consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, we could. I don't know if there's appetite for it. I think it'll be a project that someone would have to take on. And then we've talked about this at length before, haven't we? About if we redo it, how do we handle speeding the music up for speed shoes and stuff?
Making it not muffled.
Yeah.
Oh, well, or just having it transition between speed shoes and the main stage song. Oh, like consistently. I've had issues with that, trying to get the Genesis tracks to work and my own thing. I hated that so much. Have you know that each individual song in Sonic 1 has a different speed up tempo? It's not just a consistent 25 like the remaster does it.
Yeah.
And it actually makes things a lot more difficult than it needs to be.
I mean, that's not something I would stick to. Like, I've got a foobar plugin that can play the... I've gone with the .vgm files.
Yeah, the raw game audio.
Yeah. And that can give you manual control of the tempo that they're played at. So I could use that and produce the faster tracks that way at a tempo that we decide rather than a tempo that the game does for us, which would give us a lot more control. It is a lot of work. I don't think the payoff is big enough for it.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be one of those things. It's going to be like, if one of us is bored one day, we might pick it up. And when it gets finished, it might make it in the game. But it's certainly not something we've got planned. But we've had conversations about it, but we haven't planned anything.
Yeah. I am looking to just kind of like go through the remaining stuff we've got slightly pacier so that this wraps up this year. We don't want to eat everyone's entire day.
Are we gonna? Do you want to do a quick fire round?
Somewhat, yeah. Perhaps maybe not outright quick fire, but certainly a little bit quicker. Someone has asked, will there be better support for mods like in Sonic 3F for S1F and S2A? They have not, unfortunately, elaborated specifically what differences they would like to see, however.
No, I'm very familiar with the differences.
Yeah.
I can probably answer this one, actually. It's
so
more
sorry.
due to the fact that 3Air has more of a dynamic way of doing its language system and how scripts can coincide with one another while not truly affecting each other. The problem is that the Retro Engine, in its way of its scripts, it does not support this kind of thing. It's all like having to be consistent. You cannot have like one thing from one mod work with another mod, and it would be possible to probably do something similar, but it would take way too much effort and probably would give a lot of headaches to some of us here.
Aprikot, is that you going to bed, is it?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Oh, I just saw Aprikot is gone. I'm so sorry in the chat. I was like,
I've been here for the last 2 minutes.
I know you've been dropping in and out. But I just read that as thought, oh, you're going to bed. But you're not.
No. I'm staying here until the end, or until I end up actually sleeping on the stream. Whatever happens first.
We appreciate your dedication.
But yeah,
so
the 3A mod manager is just far too different to the RSDK mod manager, and that's not something we can rewrite.
Rewrite.
Sorry. Next question. We're being quick.
Yes. Are you considering an option to remove the updated HUD with the original? Says Kiwi.
No.
No, great.
Next question.
How do you activate debug mode in Sonic 1 Forever Android?
There is currently no way to do it.
You do not.
Next question.
You do
Yep.
not.
Is there no way to do it? I thought there might be.
No,
I thought there was.
There's a level select sheet on the Sega screen, but it doesn't activate debug.
Oh.
Fair. Do you plan on making a video on how to download S1F on Android? I tried the instructions on the community post, but it won't work for me, and I feel like I'm doing something wrong. So a video on how to download would be nice. Says Lamb. That's not me, to be clear. That's LAM, not meh.
I think that is something we should have, but yeah, Android's for more technical users.
Which is funny considering our average audience there.
But yeah, if we get around to it, yeah. But if you can't set the mobile port up, then maybe wait until it's finished.
Cool. How to play Knuckles and Tails mode in S1F, says Strange Adam.
That's a secret, so I can't tell you.
Yep. What was the idea behind making the hyper abilities unlock method, if there was such a thing, of course? Also, is there a reason said option doesn't make it so that you can't drown, despite that being a hyper ability, an ability for hyper characters? Says Underfell Sans, the edgy skeleton.
That's a surprising name considering the question.
You cannot drown if you have hyper abilities turned on. If you can, then that may be a mod conflict or a bug. Double check. Make sure you've got it turned on and see if you still drown. If you do, email us and we'll see what's going on with your game. With regard to the unlock method, I wanted there to be a bit more mystery around Labyrinth Zone. It's this ancient flooded temple that seems to have no story attached to it, and that really just screamed out to me as a storyteller to do something with, and it just felt like the perfect place. That place was built for a reason, and I wanted to explore that idea.
Cool. Moving on to the future. Any potential plans beyond Forever and Absolute? I figured no one else is going to ask this question. Lamau, Xmotable, asks that. So we did kind of touch on that a little bit earlier, that we do want to move on to some original stuff.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else we'd want to say about that, or do we feel that's already been covered?
We have a concept in mind for a thing we want to make. Aprikot, do you want to give any details? Because it's your baby.
Or do we want to keep it secret? That is also a valid answer.
I like cute stuff.
There's your clue. There you go. Congratulations, everyone. Do you have any other projects unrelated to 1F and 2A you're working on, or that's in the early stages of planning? Says Works of Magic. Now, obviously, we've kind of covered that just there. Essentially, there are very, very early concepts of certain things, but nothing substantial as yet. But we do have plans and hopes for the future.
What about individual side projects as well? I know Zan, you're working on a fangame.
I got stuff cooking.
Great.
Is that it? No more details?
No more, because I don't think I'm allowed to talk about it yet much.
Okay.
So
Fair enough.
Fair.
I guess I'm starting like a game project with a few close friends of mine.
Really? Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's actually we haven't started until I was finishing my tests, but it's not really going to consume me more time than needed.
Cool.
So yeah,
Right. Cool. Next.
nothing.
One user has said not a question, but he recommends working with Eukaryot from Sonic 3 Air to make 1F and 2A much better.
What does this mean?
From
Okay.
If Eukaryot wants to come in and completely rewrite our engine so that it's got really good mod support and really good accuracy to the original games, I'd let him do it. But I don't think he wants to.
I think he's like busy with his own things and whatnot. Yeah,
He's got his own life. Yeah.
he's a cool guy.
Great guy. I worked with him with a part of the 3 stuff that's been recently going on. Helped out with like starting up the forum that 3 has been doing.
Yeah, 3A's got a new forum for their modding community, haven't they?
Yeah, and maybe one day we might have something similar happen. Again.
What are they cooking?
What are we cooking?
But yeah, it's always good,
It's
I
not
think, to
specific
have
to us,
more
by the way,
places
it's
to
collaborative.
turn to
Yeah.
for modding purposes, I think, rather than being shoehorned into using a single site, regardless of how well or not so well it's run. Now we come to the silly segment. Much like how in local news you'll often find a light-hearted story at the end, I opted to just put all of the questions that made me scratch my head at the very end. So enjoy. We have Banana Boy Games saying yes. Glitch Noob asks Sonic.
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 I don't know that we have a lot to offer on that one. Do Sonic 4 Episode 1 and 2 in 16 bits? Joke, Lewis Angel. Thank you.
Thank you, Lewis. Good joke.
Yeah, it's
Very
hilarious. Yeah. What if Sonic as new game by Team Forever? Said Ruslan. Now, I don't know if that's kind of getting towards a would we make a Sonic fan game? It certainly feels like that.
I think that's actually what he was trying to say, because the broken English, that means like do you have plans as a team to make a new kind of game based around Sonic the Hedgehog? Honestly, we could have, but we don't have plans.
We don't as things stand, do we?
I think once 1 and 2 are finished, I think we need a long break from Sonic to do our own thing. But making a Sonic fan game is on my bucket list. I do want to do it one day.
If you guys wanna know something, Elspeth and I at least once or twice discussed the idea of making our own Sonic game.
Yeah.
It has been the idea existed. We had like a few basic concepts. But...
Yeah. But as things stand, I think, what you were saying just there, Elspeth, is that once these are done, I think, everyone's ready for something that's not Blue Rat, ideally. So, yeah.
But yeah, I definitely want to make a Sonic fan game one day. But I don't know if that's going to be anytime soon.
And then to finish off there, we have a number of questions from one I only assume must be a massive fan of the work called Carl Emerald. I think it's pronounced, where is checkpoint ball toggle? That sounds like a skill issue. Where is egg robo toggle? Any thoughts, anyone?
I mean,
what the heck is an egg robo?
Egg robo does not exist.
I've got no idea. Are you guys going to update expansion pack? You really have to take that up with whoever made
expansion pack is cancelled. Expansion pack is cancelled.
Yep.
On Twitter.
Me in the game? No, only King the Meme can be added to the game.
Canon.
And can I meet the guy who made expansion pack? Carl, if you do, could you ask him to take care of his children, please? Because I do not have answers to their questions. And with that, that's just about everything that we had coming in.
No.
Is there anything that anyone
you missed
spotted?
one.
What did I miss?
Angel Tales, El Gato con Botas says, Team Forever.
Oh no, that is true. Actually, yes. I did overlook that.
How to answer that one quickly?
Team Forever.
Yeah, Team Forever.
Yeah, no,
Team Forever.
absolutely. It's to be fair, so true. Is there anything that anyone's seen kind of come up in the chat, or anything that anyone wanted to elaborate on before we look towards wrapping things up?
I think like one thing I saw when we were talking about Timeless and 3, there were people talking about a Mania. If we would do anything with Mania. I don't think there's anything that Mania needs like the other games. Like it's kind of already.
I mean, the only thing I can imagine starting to Mania is arcade mode.
Yeah, arcade
And
mode.
that are probably improving Encore, since it's quite literally just has a slight level out of it.
Every game needs arcade mode.
That's a good yeah.
If the Origins Plus does not have arcade mode, I'm going
We are
to
committing arson.
Who's got the soundboard?
That's me.
I will call the gamer and I will tell them the complaint.
We will call the
Get the press on the. Zan's gonna hold a press conference.
I think Carl just said overhaul the art when I think we were talking about Sonic Mania. I mean, listen, he's a little cyan. Bear with it.
Yeah, I would not want to do a Mania project as Team Forever purely because I am terrified of what Retro would do to the art.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing.
It will look like a different game completely. And
I mean, not a bad thing. New style.
No, not bad at all. But it's going to kill Retro in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want
Retro's gonna
that.
have to deal with a lot of graphics. Oh, imagine having to deal with
and
like,
I
a
know
huge
Retro
sprite
will
sheet.
be the one leading that, and I know he isn't going to survive that.
Retro would not be able to survive it, unlikely. Miscellaneous graphics tweaks exist. I mean, yeah, that does exist. I do remember that mod, but I don't remember what it actually did.
Use mods.
Yeah, use
Yeah.
mods. It's
Yeah,
literally just-
that is a true fact, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to play a Sonic 3 Sonic in a style clash, go ahead. I do not understand this goofy little hedgehog from Sonic 3, but I prefer funny little purplish hedgehog from Sonic 1. I like
Blurple.
him. Blurple. He's my favorite.
A cutie.
Yee! He's a creature.
Right, so I think we've covered everything there.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Pretty much, yeah. Unless anyone has anything else to add.
If anyone in the chat may have a question or something, that we haven't already
Any
answered.
last minute questions?
But if it's anything we've already answered, or it's just outright stupid as hell, like... Actually, if it's stupid as hell, we might mock you, so feel free.
Why is Sonic blue? The question everybody should be asking.
Yeah.
Why is Sonic blue? Why can't he be rojo? Make him red. Red hot Sonic.
The question was stuck in my head. I wasn't even thinking about answering. I'm just thinking, why Sonic Blue? Why Sonic Blue? I'm really tired.
What do you think of Sonic 1 special stages? I love them. Personally, I love
Yeah.
them. I'm a really big fan.
Personally, in my opinion, I prefer them over Sonic 2.
Is King
Wish you
canon?
could retry them
Yes.
though.
Maybe one day.
I did see someone ask why Zan was wearing red shoes. I don't know if Zan wants to answer that.
Red is cool. Blue is not. End of end of sentence.
Why he purple?
Purple.
Right, I think that's it then.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining me, guys. Thanks for caring about the projects that we're doing. It is actually overwhelming and bewildering that everyone's so interested in what we're cooking. So thank you very, very much for that. And thanks for sticking around tonight. We've had fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And from the team side, I personally want to thank Aprkot for staying up so incredibly late for us.
Oh, definitely.
Like,
Yeah.
It's
that's
almost 6
incredibly kind of
a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Go to sleep, Aprikot.
Yeah, we are actively pushing Aprkot towards his bed mentally.
Okay.
Good night, guys.
Thank everyone for watching the stream. Like, really,
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, all of you, for being here. Like, I'm really grateful to work with all of you.
I'm grateful to work with you too.
Nanika.